Hey hunters! Welcome back to Anime Fanfic Corner, the only place on YouTube dedicated exclusively to Hunter HxH audiobooks. Today we're diving into another amazing fanfic, unlimited enhancements starting from the full-time Hunter. Big shout out to the original author, their info's in the description, so definitely check them out and show some love. Many rant incoming, embarrassed smiley face emoji. This fanfic was a translation disaster, broken grammar, Chinese character names, all over the place. So I spent a few hours going chapter by chapter, fixing everything so you can enjoy it the way it was meant to be read. Show some love for the grind. Rant over. If you're new here and love HxH as much as I do, hit that like button, smash subscribe, and become an official Hunter. To keep things immersive, I only do intros and outros at the start and end of playlists, so you can enjoy the story with no interruptions. Also, don't sleep on the community tab. I actually post stuff there, not just sub-begging like certain audiobook channels. Embarrassed smiley face emoji. Alright, let's get into it. Peace. Love you all. Chapter 1. And why does the ground feel so slimy? When Vega slowly opened his eyes, the first thing he felt was a sharp pain in his head, as if something was constantly stirring inside his brain, sending waves of tingling agony through his skull. I remember watching anime while booting up a game, trying to do both at once. Then suddenly, the screen went black and started sparking. Vega gritted his teeth, trying to recall what had happened. Did it explode? The last thing he remembered was a spark on the screen, followed by shards flying everywhere. His face felt like it had been scorched, and then, darkness. When he came to, he had become whatever he was now. What is this place? Vega glanced around, and his expression shifted instantly to fear. He found himself in a strange room, surrounded by corpses lying in pools of blood. The ground was littered with bullet casings and riddled with holes. Everything around him pointed to one conclusion: a brutal shootout had taken place here. This scene was something no ordinary person should ever witness. Still groggy, Vega tried to make sense of his surroundings. Panic rising, he knew he had to get out. But just as he moved to stand, a flood of memories rushed into his mind. Zoldyck family. The V5. The 10 Dons. York New City. Meteor City. Heaven's Arena. Aren't these the iconic names from Hunter HxH? As more images flashed in his mind and information fused together, it finally clicked. I've crossed into the world of Hunter HxH. And this world, it's not kind to ordinary people. If the anime was anything to go by, this was a savage world where strength ruled all. Criminals run rampant. Even assassins like the Zoldks can operate publicly, and their home is a tourist attraction. Then there's Meteor City, lawless, unmanaged, and practically untouchable. Everything about this world is steeped in danger and darkness. Yet it's also filled with hidden realms, magical beasts, ancient ruins, rare treasures, and the mysterious Dark Continent. Not to mention Nen, the limitless potential of Nen abilities fills this deadly world with wild possibilities and all. If all he had done was cross into this world, Vega might have been okay with that. He could have laid low, trained, picked up combat skills, and eventually joined the Hunter exam. If he followed in Gon's footsteps, maybe he'd even learn Nen through the official path. But fate wasn't that kind. It was 1996. He had reincarnated as the son of a mafia boss from a crime family known as the Pengel family. He now occupied the body of the 15-year-old heir, Vega Pengel. Just hours ago, the Pengel family had been attacked by a rival gang, the Shelby family. One of Pengel's top executives had actually been bribed by Shelby a year prior. As a result, today's betrayal had been perfectly timed. The upper ranks of the Pengel family were taken out in one swift, coordinated strike. In a flash, the Pengel organization crumbled, its remnants swallowed whole by the Shelby family. Vega, the son of the Pengel boss, had tried to escape the city under the protection of a few loyal bodyguards. But rival gangs don't leave loose ends. Within hours, the Shelby family issued a bounty and sent people flooding through the city to hunt him down. What Vega hadn't expected was that even the bodyguards had traitors among them. Their hideout was quickly surrounded. Though the traitors were eliminated, the enemy launched a full-on assault. After a brutal firefight, most of the bodyguards were either killed or badly injured. Vega himself was shot and died. It wasn't until this Vega crossed over and took over the body that he came back to life. And according to the original Vega's memories, the gang would soon send a cleanup crew. If they found out he was still alive, they'd finish the job. Just as Vega was beginning to panic. Boom. Something exploded inside his body. He suddenly felt a surge of energy flood through him. Aura. Nen. His entire body went weak, and he collapsed to the ground in a daze. At the same time, glowing green code appeared in front of him. Ding. System activated. Information began pouring into his mind. Then, a clear voice rang out. Ding. System online. Have a good game. Chapter 2. Congratulations, host. You have acquired Infinite Enhancement. Infinite Enhancement. Everything in the world can be enhanced, as long as you have enough experience points. Host, Vega. Ability, Enhancement. XP, 0. A torrent of system messages flooded Vega's mind. Do I gain XP by defeating enemies? If I can enhance things with XP, how much can I boost something depending on how much I spend? A kill-based system, huh? Vega muttered as the info settled in. He slowly raised his hand. A faint white aura formed in his palm. It wasn't just the system. The moment it activated, it also opened his aura nodes. He now had access to Nen. Just as Vega was beginning to experiment. Click. Click. Footsteps echoed outside the door. Leather shoes on concrete. Hey, hurry up and clean in there. We don't have all day. Also, there should be a teenage corpse in there, the Penguin boss's son. Bag that one separately. We'll take him. Burn the rest. Another voice chimed in faintly. Gray, send everything to Site 4 for disposal. Move fast, we've got other spots to hit. The Penguin family had too many businesses. If we take our time, we'll be working all night. A gruff voice replied, got it, boss. Damn. The cleanup crew's already here? Vega cursed under his breath. And they brought enforcers too. He quickly grabbed a pistol from the ground, stood up, and hid behind a stone pillar. With his finger resting on the trigger, he pointed the gun at the door, eyes sharp and ready. Bang! The heavy wooden door creaked open. 3 men in black raincoats stepped inside, carrying body bags and cleaning gear. The moment they spotted Vega, crouched and aiming at them from behind the pillar, they panicked. No. Don't shoot. We're just cleaners. What the hell? There's someone alive in here, kill him. 2 gangsters escorting the cleaner shouted and drew their guns, realizing Vega wasn't dead after all. Bang. Bang. Without hesitation, Vega pulled the trigger. The 2 gangsters were shot through the chest, collapsing to the ground in pools of blood, their bodies twitching before going still. Ding. +2 XP. Without pause, Vega shot the 3 cleaners trying to flee. Ding. +1 XP. +1 XP. +1 XP. More footsteps and shouting echoed from outside. The gunshots had alerted the rest. The gang members outside stomped out their cigarettes and charged in, guns raised. Vega took cover again, thinking fast. His pistol wouldn't be enough, not against a whole squad. His Nen had only just awakened. His aura was weak. He couldn't rely on that yet. But he had one option left. The system. He rifled through a fallen bodyguard's gear and pulled out a grenade. As he held it, a message popped up in his vision. Grenade, standard fragmentation grenade. He focused, willing the system to act. Use 1 XP, enhance. Ding. Grenade +0.1. Slight enhancement. Slightly increased power. That's it? Vega stared at the grenade. There's no difference. A moment later, another message appeared. Grenade +0.1, slight enhancement. Power modestly increased. So it worked. But very minimally. Which meant I need to pour in way more XP. Without hesitation, Vega dumped the rest of his 4 XP into the grenade. Ding. Grenade +0.5. Moments later, gang members appeared in the corridor, cautiously advancing. Vega's eyes narrowed. With a vicious snarl, he hurled the enhanced grenade toward them. "Let's see how you like a buffed explosion." The grenade bounced off the wall and landed right next to the advancing squad. Boom! A deafening explosion tore through the corridor. Vega ducked back behind the pillar just in time. When the smoke cleared, the entire hallway had been leveled. The floor was blasted into a crater. Rubble covered everything. No sign of survivors. Vega stared, stunned. There was no way a normal grenade could do this much damage. This looked more like the aftermath of a small bomb. And that was just plus 0.5. If that was the result of 5 XP. Shh! Vega whistled softly, eyes gleaming. With just a few XP, he had boosted the grenade's power by multiple times. What if he used hundreds? Thousands? He turned his gaze toward the city, a savage grin stretching across his face. If he used this system on Nen techniques, the Shelby family? They were done for. Vega looked at his system panel, 11 XP gained. His eyes gleamed with fury and fire. "Shelby family. Wash your necks. I'm coming for you." He would have his revenge. He'd fight back, and destroy every last one of them. Chapter 3. Vega didn't rush to take revenge on the Shelby family. After all, he had just received the system, and he still needed time to explore how it worked. Although he had just used the enhancement ability once, powering up a grenade and wiping out several enemies in one blast, enhancement consumed experience points. And right now, he had almost none. The only way to gain more XP was by killing enemies. But although Vega wasn't exactly a moral paragon, he still had a basic conscience. He didn't intend to become a bloodthirsty maniac, slaughtering indiscriminately just to rack up experience. Instead, his targets were clear, the Shelby family's gang members. They were enemies. Killing them was justified. Simple. So, Vega planned to hunt down Shelby-affiliated gangsters, slowly earning XP to enhance a powerful item, and then wipe out the entire Shelby family in one strike. Safe. Efficient. Brutal. Even with a system like this, Vega preferred to play it safe rather than recklessly throwing himself into danger. Who knew? The Shelby family might have already hired a Nen user. In the Hunter x Hunter world, Nen users aren't exactly common, but they aren't rare either. Even the underworld Nostrade family had Nen using bodyguards. While the Shelby family wasn't nearly as powerful as the Nostrades, they could have gotten lucky, or desperate, and recruited a hunter through the association. If that were the case, charging in blindly would be suicide. Vega's plan was simple. Get insanely strong first, then hunt down the Shelby family gang members as a warm-up, crippling their resources before dealing the finishing blow. But before the hunt began, Vega needed to familiarize himself with the Nen ability he had just unlocked. He knew the Shelby family's thugs carried firearms and wouldn't hesitate to shoot. If he wanted to survive, he needed to sharpen his power before walking into a fight. Nen. The most important power in the Hunter x Hunter universe. Everything in that world revolved around Nen. Only those who could use it were considered strong, and only the truly strong could even begin to learn about the Dark Continent. Nen was the ultimate key to freedom and power. Theoretically, anyone could learn Nen, but in reality, very few people ever did. Due to an agreement between the Hunter Association and the V5, the existence of Nen was kept secret from the general public, to prevent chaos, abuse, and exploitation by criminals. For most people, the only way to learn Nen was through the Hunter exam, where the association might assign a mentor to train those who passed. But even getting that far was nearly impossible. According to the anime, millions applied for the Hunter exam each year, and very few passed, even fewer learned Nen. Between the brutal tests and information suppression, most never even learned Nen existed. Remember how Gon and the others had to reach the 200th floor of Heaven's Arena just to receive Nen training? How they almost died to reach that level. That said enough. To use Nen, one had to open their aura nodes and learn to control their life energy. Once Nen flowed freely, it could be wrapped around the body to enhance attack and defense. Ordinary people couldn't compete. There were 4 basic principles of Nen. 10. Entanglement, maintaining and stabilizing your aura. Essential for defense. Zetsu, absolute, shutting off aura completely to hide your presence. But also leaves you defenseless. Ren, enhancement, generating more aura, strengthening power and presence. Hatsu, release, the user's personalized Nen ability, how aura is expressed as a unique power. These were just the basics. More advanced techniques included Gyo, En, In, Shu, and Ko. In Vega's memory, even the last mission OVA introduced a special version of Nen called On used by the Shadow Squad, which had terrifying power. But mastering Nen without a skilled teacher was nearly impossible. Even the most talented would struggle. Right now, Vega needed to identify which Nen category he belonged to. So, he used water divination, Mijigoshi. The 6 Nen types were: enhancement, emission, conjuration, manipulation, transmutation, specialization, the most mysterious. Each had its own traits, and knowing your type was crucial. Training the wrong one would waste time and potential. Otherwise, you would end up like Wing described, a guy who trained in the wrong category and died with no results. Well, now Yuvogin and Hisaka were probably still just getting started in Heaven's arena. Thinking of that lunatic Hisaka made Vega shiver. He quickly shook the image from his head. He grabbed a cup, filled it with water, placed a leaf on the surface, and gently placed his hands on either side of the cup. Then, he channeled his aura into the water. In an instant, crystals formed inside the cup. Conjuration type. A good Nen category, especially when paired with the enhancement system. He could create objects and make them stronger using experience points. His mind raced with possibilities. What if he conjured legendary weapons or gear, like holy swords, imperial arms, or even cursed artifacts, and supercharged them with XP? Suddenly, a thought struck him: what happens if I use XP right now? He focused. 1 point of XP was consumed. Then, the crystals inside the water turned black. A creeping black mist flowed out of the cup. Echoes, agonized screams, whispered in his ears. The cup, engulfed in mist, began to rot away. When the black fog cleared, only fragments remained. Chapter 4. So, am I conjuration or specialization? Vega muttered, confused. Can it really shift like that? The enhancement from XP seemed to change his Nen entirely. He rubbed his temple. Forget it. The system is too mysterious. Better not overthink it. He thought back to what he'd seen during water divination. In the anime, only one person had shown 2 different Nen types in that test, Kurapika. In his normal state, Kurapika tested as a conjurer. But when his scarlet eyes activated, he turned into a specialist, gaining access to all 6 types at 100% efficiency, plus exclusive abilities tied to his vows and restrictions. A total monster, the Phantom Troop Killer. Vega pondered, so. When I only use Nen, I'm a conjurer. But when I add XP, it shifts into something else. A specialist with corrosion-based powers. If so, that could become his trump card, a deadly, soul-corroding ace. He turned his eyes to the building in the distance, the one he'd just escaped from. After killing the Shelby gunman earlier, Vega hadn't run away. Instead, he hid in a tall building at the end of the street, watching. He wouldn't run like prey. He was the hunter now. He baited a trap, posing as an informant who tipped off the Shelby family about Vega's location. He claimed he saw Pengel's kid hiding in that building. Just as expected, the Shelby family took the bait, showered him with praise, and told him to keep watching. If the intel proved true, they'd pay him handsomely. And if anything unusual happened, he was to report it immediately. Half an hour later, more than a dozen vehicles pulled up. Dozens of Shelby gunmen poured out, surrounding the building with drawn guns and bloodthirsty intent. Then came a luxury car, which stopped at a safe distance. A scar-faced man in his 40s stepped out, his face twisted with fury. A suited man rushed to greet him. Lord Griffin. Griffin waved dismissively. Report. We've sealed off the area. Not even a fly's getting out, the captain replied proudly. Just say the word, and we'll turn that Pengel brat into Swiss cheese. Griffin scowled. Then what the hell are you waiting for? Move. Send the Pengel family to hell where they belong. Yes sir. The captain barked an order, and more than 10 gunmen stormed the building. Griffin lit a cigarette, smug. The captain lit it for him, grinning. Before you finish that smoke, we'll be dragging that brat's corpse out for you. Just as the words left his mouth. Boom. An explosion tore through the building. Chunks of concrete and shrapnel flew in every direction, injuring several of the gunmen nearby. Cracks split the structure as it groaned under pressure. Crash. The entire building collapsed. Dust billowed skyward, blanketing everything. Then, clang. Clang. Grenades fell from above into the chaos. Boom. 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 Explosions rang out like thunder. Screams echoed through the dust. Griffin's cheek was cut by debris. Covered in blood, he roared, "It's an ambush! Fall back! Now! Retreat! Get out of the smoke! You're sitting ducks in there!" Even as he barked orders, Griffin climbed into his car and slammed it into reverse. He intended to use his men as shields, waiting for them to draw fire while he escaped. Gunshots and screams continued behind him. Feeling the moment was right, Griffin hit the gas and sped out of the smoke, turning sharply at the corner. But then he saw it. A grenade, thrown ahead of his escape route. Boom. The car flipped in the blast. Broken and bloodied, Griffin tried to unbuckle his seatbelt, but his mangled legs wouldn't move. Footsteps echoed nearby. He looked up with blood in his eyes. A teenager, 15 or 16, walked out of the darkness, calmly holding a pistol, casually finishing off every wounded enemy he passed. "Griffin, number 3 of the Shelby family," the boy said coldly. Vega looked down at the squirming man, who resembled a dying dog. He raised the gun without another word. Bang! A body hit the ground. Blood soaked the concrete, painting it crimson. Chapter 5. Ding! Ding! Inside the brightly lit Shelby villa, laughter echoed through the halls. In the study, a man in a suit sat on a luxurious couch, sipping a celebratory drink. Today, he had successfully wiped out one of the city's most influential mafia families, the Pengel family. Once Griffin brought back the head of Pengel's last remaining heir, Nacra City would fall completely under the Shelby family's control. The thought of reigning over the city's underworld, and potentially align with the 10 Dons, sent a surge of satisfaction through Tom Shelby. Perhaps soon, his family would become the direct subordinates of one of the 10 Dons themselves. Tom Shelby smiled broadly. "The Shelby family is about to rise to new heights under my leadership," he said proudly, raising his glass. "We'll prosper more than ever." At that moment, a middle-aged man wearing a suit and sunglasses entered and whispered respectfully, "Sir, Mr. Daniel has arrived." "Oh. He's here? Bring him in immediately," Tom ordered with enthusiasm. A moment later, a young man in his 20s entered the room, carrying himself with arrogance and pride. Tom quickly stood, smiling as he walked forward with open arms. "Welcome, Lord Daniel." Daniel gave him a cold glance, the corners of his mouth twitching with disdain. He extended his hand slowly, shook Tom's half-heartedly, and quickly pulled away. Tom's expression barely changed. He forced a smile and gestured politely to the sofa. Trying to smooth over the chill in the air, Tom grabbed a bottle of wine and poured a glass, handing it to the young man. "Lord Daniel, please enjoy. This is a 30-year-old Maru vintage." Daniel lounged lazily on the sofa, took the glass, and sipped casually, completely unimpressed. It was clear he didn't see Tom, soon-to-be ruler of Nacra City's underground, as anything of note. Tom's eyes flickered with a hint of frustration, but he kept his cool. After all, Daniel represented the 10 Dons, an existence the Shelby family dared not provoke. Swallowing his pride, Tom smiled and said, "Lord Daniel, if you could kindly speak a few words of favor to the Don on our behalf." While speaking, Tom slid a check across the table. Daniel's eyes gleamed the moment he saw the amount, 500 million. Pocketing the check smoothly, Daniel patted Tom on the shoulder and smirked. "Don't worry. I'll talk to my cousin. As the 4th son of Lord Hagel, one of the 10 Dons, he can definitely consider listing your Shelby family as direct subordinates. But Daniel's tone shifted suddenly, his expression turning serious. Even as a direct subordinate, you'd better understand very clearly which Don you answer to. He leaned in closer, eyes sharp and threatening. If you forget your place, things will happen. Tom nodded repeatedly, replying, Lord Daniel, rest assured. We'll remain loyal to Lord Murphy and support his rise to power among the 10 Dons. Hearing this, Daniel laughed heartily. He pointed at Tom and sneered, You? The Shelby family from the sticks? Know your place. Your only purpose is to offer tribute to my cousin. Tom's fists clenched beneath the table. How dare this arrogant brat talk down to him? He was about to rule an entire city. For a moment, Tom had the urge to draw his pistol and shoot Daniel on the spot. But he held back. He couldn't afford to offend the 10 Dons. Killing Daniel would mean instant death, possibly at the hands of the 10 Dons' enforcers, the Shadow Beasts. It would spell the Shelby family's annihilation. So, Tom swallowed his rage, smiled, and continued to act like the perfect host. He even politely arranged for his men to escort Daniel to a private room to rest, just to avoid further humiliation. Once Daniel was gone, Tom returned to the window, drink in hand, staring out into the night and contemplating his future. Suddenly, knock, knock, knock. Come in, Tom said without turning around. A man in his 30s entered with a nervous expression, sweat on his forehead. He bowed deeply and said, Lord Tom, I've just received news. Lord Griffin was ambushed by the Pengle family. Everyone in his unit was killed. What? Tom's relaxed posture vanished. His expression twisted into fury. He turned around like a lion roused from slumber. Say that again, John. What the hell happened? The Pengle family was supposed to be destroyed. Only a few irrelevant rats were left. How could an ambush happen in Nacra City? Crash. Tom hurled his glass across the room, shattering it against the wall. Investigate this immediately. And if you can't give me an answer, he said, pulling out a golden pistol and pointing it at John's head, then you can join Griffin in hell. Why yes, John stammered, drenched in cold sweat. According to eyewitnesses, the attacker was from the Pengle family. They say it was Vega Pengle who set up the ambush. He's the one who killed Lord Griffin. That mongrel, Tom roared. Find him. I want him dead. I want his head delivered before dawn. I'll bury him with my brother. Mobilize everyone. No one sleeps until Vega's corpse is on my desk. Yes, sir. John bolted from the room. Once outside, he immediately pulled out his phone and issued an emergency command to every Shelby-affiliated gang, track Vega down before dawn at all costs. Moments later, dozens of gunmen poured out of the Shelby villa, climbing into blacked-out vehicles and racing into the city. Chapter 6. What do I need to do to get stronger fast? After killing Griffin, Vega quickly relocated to a new safe spot, this time near a bar secretly owned by the Shelby family. The bar doubled as a minor stronghold. Now, crouched in a dark alley, Vega observed the building carefully. He wanted to gauge the Shelby family's next move based on what happened here. With no unusual activity yet, he turned his attention inward. How can I make the best use of the system to bring down the Shelby family? He now had several dozen XP points, and with Nen, he could already enhance items. The problem was how to do so most effectively. His previous success had come from elaborate traps and exploiting the Shelby family's overconfidence. They had just toppled the Pengle family, of course they didn't expect a counterattack. That arrogance had created the perfect storm. But now? The Shelby family would be on high alert. They'd never give him such an opening again. Vega was certain that Tom Shelby was furious. After all, he had just assassinated Tom's brother. Logically, Tom would have mobilized every asset to hunt him down, because if the Shelby family didn't retaliate quickly, their reputation would crumble. Vega had anticipated all this. He had simulated every possible move Tom might make, and had counterplans ready. If Vega were stronger right now, he might have gone for a full frontal assault, striking several key Shelby strongholds, then going straight for the decapitation strike, Tom Shelby himself. But he wasn't strong enough yet. And he didn't trust the surviving members of the Pengel family. Some of them might have already sold out to Shelby. If he accidentally let a traitor close, it would be game over. So Vega would act alone. He needed to weaken the Shelby family, clip their wings. It was time for a guerrilla campaign. Though he had no manpower and the Shelby family outnumbered him 100 to 1, Vega had something they didn't, the system. With every fight, every kill, he could grow stronger. A snowball effect. And more importantly, he was faster, more precise, and far more ruthless. He could hit and run, kill key targets, and vanish without a trace. Over time, that would be enough. But I still need help, Vega muttered, leaning against the wall. I'm a conjurer. Is there a way I can summon completely obedient subordinates? His first thought, Nen beasts. No. No good. While Nen beasts were absolutely loyal, they consumed too much aura. As someone who just awakened Nen, he couldn't summon one strong enough to be useful. Even if he could, enhancing it would cost too many experience points. Then suddenly, his eyes lit up. An idea struck him. An item that could grant loyal, powerful warriors. One that came from a childhood memory. The Dark Shadow Army, from Jackie Chan Adventures. That's it. He could conjure a ghost mask. Ordinarily, it would be impossible for a rookie Nen user like him to manifest something that powerful. But he had the enhancement system. So here was the plan. First, conjure a weak ghost mask. Even if it could only summon fragile shadow soldiers, it would be a start. As long as the mask existed, it could be upgraded with XP, over and over, until it became unstoppable. It doesn't matter how weak the first version is. It's a seed. And seeds can grow. Vega's eyes gleamed. If that's the case, then let's begin. He raised his hand, focusing his Nen, and shouted. Show yourself. My Ghost Mask. Chapter 7. After making up his mind, Vega immediately began channeling his aura, focusing all his life energy into a single purpose. In his mind, he visualized the structure and form of the ghost mask again and again. As his aura steadily drained, dark Nen began to rise from his palm, and slowly, a pale black, ghostly mask took shape in his hand. Vega couldn't help but smile as he saw it form. There was a flash of excitement in his eyes. It worked. My vision came to life. No, calm down, he told himself. This is only the beginning. The mask manifested, but now I need to test its ability. And more importantly, strengthen it. He took a deep breath and steadied his thoughts. Then, slowly, he placed the mask onto his face. It fit perfectly. It didn't feel like he was wearing anything at all. It felt natural, like it was a part of him. Feels great. Now let's see what it can do. Vega channeled his aura into the mask, and in that moment, he felt a flash, as though something shifted in the air around him. A large amount of his Nen was drained instantly. Did I just summon a ghost warrior? Vega glanced around, but saw nothing. What the hell? I clearly used aura. I felt the summon go through. Where is it? He focused on the mask again, using it to scan the surroundings, and as he lowered his gaze, he finally spotted something at his feet. A small, 3-inch tall humanoid figure, pitch black and motionless. This is the ghost warrior? He crouched and picked it up. It looked like a tiny wooden figurine, completely black and eerily still. Even though he had expected a weak summon, seeing this miniature shadow soldier in person still left him speechless. To test it, he ordered it to move. It wobbled slightly. Its strength? About enough to fight. Maybe a colony of ants. Vega sighed and shook his head. Forget it. He removed the mask and stared at it in his hand. This is where the system comes in. He focused. Ghost Mask, conjured, grants the ability to summon ghost warriors. Without hesitation, Vega poured all his remaining experience points into it. Thing. Enhancement +1. Thing. Enhancement +2. Thing. Enhancement +3. Over 30 XP were consumed, raising the mask's enhancement level to +3. And instantly, the aura of the mask changed. It had transformed, from a basic, crude-looking mask to a beautifully ornate, polished artifact. It looked like something crafted by a master. Much better. Vega placed the ghost mask back on his face. A cool sensation swept over him. His senses expanded, and he immediately picked up on aura fluctuations nearby. He focused. And suddenly, 3 or 4 tall, humanoid shadow warriors appeared around him. Their forms were cloaked in darkness. Their faces were obscured. But they were imposing, muscular, solid, and radiating menace. Vega smiled. He could feel his connection to them. With a mere thought, they obeyed. He gave a mental order, and they immediately began sparring, each strike powerful, fast, and precise. They moved like professional martial artists, and their strength far exceeded that of average humans. And even more impressive, there were still more shadow warriors waiting to be summoned, hidden inside the mask. But Vega's Nen reserves weren't yet strong enough to summon them all. 4 is enough for now. Just then. Bang! The door of the bar across the street burst open. Over a dozen armed men in suits stormed out, faces fierce, and Shelby family crests pinned to their collars. Vega smirked. Right on cue. His eyes glinted. Let your lives witness the true birth of the ghost mask. He tossed firearms and grenades to the shadow warriors. Without hesitation, the dark figures caught the weapons and silently rushed toward the bar. Bang! 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 Gunfire erupted as the shadow warriors opened fire. The Shelby thugs shouted and scrambled to fight back. One of the shadow warriors, clutching 2 grenades, darted forward, weaving between obstacles with speed and agility. When he was close enough, he pulled both pins and leapt into the group. No! Get away, someone shouted. Too late. Boom. The shadow warrior self-destructed, taking most of the Shelby goons with him. The remaining warriors charged in, efficiently gunning down the survivors. Chapter 8. Vega stood stunned for a moment, watching the aftermath. Then he exploded. I told you to wipe them out, not blow yourself up. He clutched his forehead in disbelief. Why the hell would you rush in with grenades like a suicide bomber? He turned to the remaining 3 shadow warriors, who stood silently, head slightly tilted as if awaiting further orders. Well, they're strong. But maybe not the brightest. Vega quickly checked the ghost mask. He felt around mentally, and found that, aside from the 3 currently summoned warriors, there was still a 4th one waiting to recover. The system confirmed it. Weak shadow warriors in cooldown. Can be summoned again in 24 hours. At least it's not permanent death. Still, if multiple warriors went on cooldown in a short time, it could leave him vulnerable. I'll have to use them more carefully next time. Thankfully, he still had 3 usable warriors. He glanced at his system, 13 experience points gained from the recent skirmish. Should I upgrade the mask again? If just +3 had given him warriors like these, then +4 might allow faster summoning, more soldiers, or stronger stats. No point in hoarding XP. He used 10 experience points, and the ghost mask upgraded to +4. Immediately, he felt the difference. The number of shadow warriors stored inside the mask had increased to 12, and their strength felt notably enhanced. Vega smiled with satisfaction. He ordered the current warriors to gather weapons from the fallen gang members, then quietly vanished into the night with his ghostly squad. The hunt had begun. In a different part of the city. Monsters. They're monsters. Flames roared as several terrified gangsters with Shelby family crests fled into the darkness. Faces pale, eyes wide in horror, they ran like rats. These men were battle-hardened veterans, part of the Shelby family's elite combat squads. But now? All they wanted was to survive. They had been chasing Vega when, out of nowhere, black figures emerged from the shadows, dozens of them. Vague, humanoid shapes, jet black with glowing red eyes, armed to the teeth. At first, the gangsters had scoffed. They were armed, trained, confident. But these shadowy enemies were fast, precise, ruthless, and worst of all, completely fearless. Some charged in with explosives, self-detonating in a suicidal frenzy. And when they died, They dissolved into black mist, gone without a trace. The horror shattered the gangsters' composure. They'd fought many battles, but they had never faced anything like this. Worse still, every time one shadow warrior fell, another emerged from the darkness to take its place. It felt endless. Amidst the screams, blood, and chaos, Vega stood in the shadows, silent and still, commanding his warriors like a conductor leading an orchestra of death. The last gangster tried to flee. Bang! He dropped instantly, and silence fell. Vega stepped forward, surrounded by his summoned army. From the earlier battles, his total number of summoned shadow warriors had grown to 40 or 50. They were his spoils. This most recent gang was already the 5th combat unit he'd wiped out. And it wasn't just combat teams, he had raided several of the Shelby family's strongholds, wiping out everyone inside. In just one night, Vega had slaughtered 600 to 700 Shelby-affiliated operatives. At first, he hadn't expected things to go so smoothly. But he had underestimated the enhancement system. As he racked up kills and XP, he immediately reinvested it into the ghost mask. Now at +10, the mask allowed him to summon 100 shadow warriors, each stronger than the last. Their marksmanship was deadly. Their coordination, flawless. Their courage? Absolute. The Shelby family's fighters never stood a chance. Even now, Vega still had 300 experience points saved in the system. His plan had been to keep leveling up the mask further, but when he tried, the system gave him a message. Item has reached +10. Advancement phase required. Chapter 9. Enhancing the ghost mask again would push it into a first-order item, elevating its power to an entirely new level. But that kind of advancement came at a cost, a huge cost. Vega glanced at the 300 experience points he'd saved, thinking they would be enough. But the system gave him a cold slap of reality. Advancement to First Order requires 1,000 experience points. He was far from ready. So, for now, further enhancement was out of the question. Instead, Vega decided to save his experience points. After all, against standard street-level thugs and gang enforcers, his shadow warriors were more than enough. By now, the Shelby family's elite combat teams had nearly been wiped out. Hunting the stragglers still hiding around Necro City would yield little reward. It was time. Vega was ready to move on to total annihilation, to crush the Shelby family completely. Even if they'd hired an unuser, he had over 300 XP stored. That was more than enough to instantly enhance another powerful item for the job. Still, Vega wouldn't storm the villa recklessly. That wasn't his style. Instead, he would first send his shadow warriors to infiltrate and probe the Shelby compound, test the waters, gauge the strength of their defenses, and search for any surprises. If the villa's defenses were weak, he would send in everything, all shadow warriors at once, to finish the job. If they were stronger than expected, he had contingencies. With his plan set, Vega started the car and drove toward the Shelby family's villa. Meanwhile, inside the Shelby family villa, boom, crash, antique statues shattered on the floor. Priceless artwork was ripped from walls and smashed to pieces. Tom Shelby stood in a frenzy, his eyes bloodshot, fury twisting his face as he glared at the subordinates cowering before him. His dream of ruling Necro City was in shambles. Earlier that evening, he had been ecstatic, on the verge of total dominance. Now? He wanted to execute every last man in the room. You useless trash. What's the point of bowing and apologizing now? A damn toilet has more use than new idiots. Just hours ago, the Shelby family had crushed the Pangle family. We were about to unite the city, finally getting recognition from the 10 Dons. Tom was shaking with rage, veins bulging at his neck. He slammed his fists down, and then, whack! He struck one of his lieutenants in the face with the butt of his gun, splitting his forehead and knocking him unconscious. And now? My brother Griffin is dead. Our city strongholds are being bombed. Our task forces are being ambushed over and over. Hundreds of soldiers, dead. My elite unit, gone. His fury was boiling over. And you still don't know who did it? Or where they are? At this point, Tom looked like a desperate gambler who had lost everything. His empire, his men, his future. He was crumbling, and all because of one name. Don't just keep blaming Vega. What manpower does he even have left? He grabbed John, his top aide, by the collar and snarled, "You told me yourself the Pengel family was destroyed. All the top brass were killed. The middle ranks too. Only a few nobodies escaped. So where the hell did Vega get the resources to pull this off?" John could only lower his head, unable to reply. His lips trembled, but he didn't dare say a word. Click. Tom cocked his revolver and pressed it to John's forehead. The cold barrel made John's whole body stiffen. His face went pale as death. Just as Tom's finger began to squeeze the trigger, John cried out, "Wait. My lord, I received a report. A survivor from one of our squads just sent intel." Tom's eyes burned with killing intent, finger still hovering on the trigger. "Then tell me something useful before I blow your brains out." John swallowed hard and spoke quickly. The survivor said Vega commands a group of black-clad warriors, shadow warriors. They strike in waves. And when they're killed, they vanish into mist. They're not normal people. They're something else. Tom stared at him blankly. "You trying to joke with me?" he seethed. "You expect me to believe your men were killed by disappearing mist ninjas? Make up a better lie next time." In his eyes, John was clearly fabricating nonsense in a desperate attempt to live. Bang! Tom pulled the trigger. But John flinched, untouched. He opened his eyes and looked down. He wasn't hit. He turned to see that Tom's revolver had been shot out of his hand. A new figure stood at the edge of the room, a man in his 30s, lean and sharp-featured, with a short goatee. He hadn't even glanced at Tom. He was looking directly at John. "Repeat what you just said." Slowly, the man ordered. John recognized him immediately. Michel, Lord Daniel's bodyguard. This man was an end user. Dangerous. And highly ranked. Realizing this might be his one chance to live, John ran over and began whispering everything in detail. Chapter 10. Michel brought John to a separate room and listened to the full report in silence. Once it ended, he waved for John to leave. Then, stroking his goatee thoughtfully, he muttered to himself, "I didn't expect to run into a Nen user in a place like this." But something didn't add up. From what Michel understood, the Pengel family had no history of Nen. They were just a minor mafia clan. In theory, Vega shouldn't even know what Nen is, let alone be using it this effectively. So that left two possibilities. Michel's eyes narrowed. First, Vega awakened Nen spontaneously, possibly triggered by the trauma of his family's extermination. But that was extremely rare. Almost unheard of. It would mean Vega was a genius on a level that defied belief. Second, a glint of greed sparked in Michel's eyes. Vega had discovered, or inherited, a powerful Nen artifact. Michel was sure of it. A freshly awakened Nen user could not possibly summon dozens of powerful conjurations like these shadow warriors. Even a seasoned conjurer couldn't sustain that many. It had to be a mental tool, a Nen-enhanced artifact, probably from ancient times. Something incredibly rare. And if Vega wasn't even trained in Nen, then he was likely using it poorly, which meant the tool was even more powerful than it looked. Michel's pulse quickened. If I get my hands on that artifact, my power would skyrocket. He could even secure a place among the shadow beasts, the Ten Dawn's most elite enforcers. Riches, status, power, all within reach. "I came to this backwater city just to babysit Daniel," Michel sneered. "And now I'm staring at the opportunity of a lifetime." A cruel smile spread across his face. The Shelby family has outlived its usefulness. He'd let them be destroyed, personally, if needed, and seize the artifact during the chaos. Then, once the ghost mask was his, he could disappear before anyone noticed. If Daniel wasn't the cousin of Lord Murphy, Michel would have killed him too to tie up loose ends. Meanwhile, more than a dozen shadow warriors had surrounded the Shelby villa from the darkness. Hidden behind hedges, crouched on rooftops, they drew their weapons and moved silently into position. Then, A single warrior darted across the lawn. Bark! 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 The villa's Dobermans exploded into a frenzy. Instantly, the entire compound lit up with alarms and floodlights. 20 to 30 armed guards rushed out with guns raised. One by one, the dogs snapped their restraints and charged the shadow warriors. Gunfire erupted like thunder in the night. The warriors gunned down the dogs without hesitation, then sprinted toward the villa under cover of smoke. Inside the house, the Shelby guards had already prepared for this. With the recent attacks, they knew an assault on the villa was inevitable. The moment the dogs barked, they scrambled to battle stations. Machine guns, shotguns, even light bazookas. Everything opened fire on the lawn. Explosions ripped the ground apart, turning it into a blazing battlefield. Many shadow warriors were destroyed immediately. On the second-floor balcony, Tom stood with a cigar in his mouth, eyes blazing with hate. "I've been ready for you bastards. Eat lead." He turned and shouted, "Get out there. I want to see what those freaks look like now." Several gangsters cautiously moved on to the lawn to assess the situation. Elsewhere, Michel stood on a secluded balcony, eyes narrowed as he used Gyo to observe the battlefield. He nodded. Just like John said, those warriors were entirely made of Nen. No doubt about it. Vega really has something special. And more importantly, Vega had brought the fight to them. Michel's expression darkened with excitement. He's close. He's watching. He's guiding these warriors. Which means, I can find him. Across the villa, Daniel burst out of his room in pajamas, panicking as he heard the gunfire. "Michel! Where are you?" His voice cracked in terror as he ran toward the non-user, desperate for protection. Michel scowled. He was in the middle of tracking Vega's position. He didn't need this idiot ruining everything. Still, he couldn't kill Daniel. Not yet. But before Michel could shout back. Vroom! Several large trucks appeared on the horizon, engines roaring. From opposite directions, they picked up speed, throttles wide open. Charging straight toward the villa. Chapter 11. The cigar dropped from Tom's mouth and hit the ground. Right now, cigars were the least of his concerns. He roared, ordering his men to open fire. They had to destroy those cars. It was obvious, even to the blind, that something was seriously wrong with them. The way the vehicles charged straight toward them sent a chill down Tom's spine. Gunfire erupted like a storm, bullets tearing through the air as they rained down on the oncoming cars. Boom! A flame shot into the sky. Like a mini mushroom cloud, a violent shockwave ripped through the area. The blast shattered the windows of the entire villa and sent the Shelby family gang scrambling to the ground in terror. The horror of the scene left everyone stunned. They finally understood what was packed inside those cars. As more of them sped toward the villa, they screamed and kept firing. If one of those vehicles got through, the consequences were unimaginable. Tom fired wildly, shouting at the top of his lungs, "Fire! Fire now! Blow that thing up!" Daniel, meanwhile, dove back into the villa the moment the first explosion hit. His face was pale and wet with tears, pure terror. He had to get out. Now. This was insane. Someone had actually used that kind of attack, and somehow he, Daniel, had ended up dragged into it, collateral damage from the Shelby family's mess. He could lose his life here just by being caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. If he made it out alive, the Shelby family would pay. He'd bleed them dry to soothe his traumatized soul. Michel, on the other hand, frowned. A flicker of panic crossed his eyes. He hadn't expected Vega to attack in such a brutal, reckless way. He had trained Nen, and his aura could shield him from small arms fire. But in a full-scale firefight like this, even he was at risk. If one of those explosive-packed cars reached the villa, the resulting blast might be too much even for him to endure. He needed to help the Shelby family hold the line, wear down these shadow warriors and create an opening for a lethal counterattack. With a plan forming, Michel casually drew a pistol and fired the first shot at the driver's seat of a speeding car. Bang! But the car didn't even flinch. Michel's face darkened. He pulled the trigger again and again, but even after several shots, The car barely slowed down. It shook slightly, but still barreled forward. "These shadow warriors are tougher than I thought," he muttered. He holstered the standard gun and drew a larger, black revolver, at least twice the size of a normal one. The firepower of this weapon was far from ordinary. Michel aimed and fired. Boom. The moving car immediately stalled. He fired again. And again. 1, 2, 3 shots. With each pull of the trigger, another car stopped dead in its tracks. Vega, watching from a distance, immediately sensed something was wrong. His shadow warriors were being eliminated, methodically. The pattern was unmistakable. Could the Shelby family have actually recruited an end-user? A cruel light flashed in Vega's eyes. "No matter what cards you have left, I'll erase your family today." He moved swiftly, leading a squad of shadow warriors toward the villa, timing their attack with the next wave of car crashes. But he kept his fingers near an item on his belt, his trump card. If a real NEN user appeared, he was ready to use his system to strengthen himself on the spot. He wouldn't be caught off guard. Even with Michel and Tom desperately blasting away, they couldn't stop all the cars. The final one crashed into the villa's outer wall. Boom. The explosion was deafening. Flames engulfed the entire building, and a mushroom cloud rose high above it, throwing dust and debris into the sky. A massive shockwave rippled outward. The multi-story villa collapsed in seconds. The Shelby family's men were wiped out by the blast. Most were obliterated instantly, bones turned to ash. The survivors weren't much better off. Burned, maimed, barely breathing. Tom was one of the lucky few. His section of the villa had been reinforced, and though he was battered by the blast, he survived. He now sat amidst the ruins, dazed and hollow-eyed. Decades of effort building the Shelby family, reduced to rubble in an instant. Then, like a nightmare made real, the shadow warriors surged forward. They began executing the survivors without hesitation. One pointed a gun at Tom, still sitting numbly atop the wreckage. Bang! Tom Shelby, the once ambitious head of the Shelby family, died atop the ruins of his home. Just then. Bang! A shadow warrior's head burst, and the body dissolved into black mist. Bang! Another fell. The warriors, caught off guard, scattered and turned their guns toward the direction of the shots. They unleashed a barrage of suppressing fire, then cautiously peeked from behind cover, eyes scanning the smoke. Through the haze, they saw him, a dusty man in a suit with a goatee, standing his ground. He held a massive revolver with a monstrous grin, unloading shot after shot with frightening precision. Chapter 12. The remaining shadow warriors, seeing their comrades drop, immediately dove for cover behind debris and began suppressing the shooter's position with gunfire. One peeked out to check the scene, and was immediately shot in the head. Bang! More shadow warriors fell, even as they changed positions and used cover. The shooter was too accurate. A NEN user? Vega muttered. Several of his shadow warriors had already vanished into black mist, returning to the mask and entering cooldown. The villa had gone quiet, no full-blown firefight, just pinpoint shots echoing through the rubble. Vega raised his binoculars. He spotted a dozen shadow warriors pinned down, hiding behind whatever cover they could find. They were all firing toward a single point. Yet even under constant return fire, the man, maybe in his 30s, thin, and goateed, was landing every shot. Headshots. Clean and fast. Vega's brow furrowed. The warriors were dodging, repositioning, using cover. But it didn't matter. They were still getting taken out. "This can't be some passive must-hit Hatsu," he muttered. "If it were that strong, there'd have to be serious restrictions, vows. No way he could use it so freely. The Shelby family wasn't powerful enough to hire someone that dangerous." And Vega had been observing closely. Every shot landed on the head. Likely a precision-based Hatsu. Or maybe the weapon itself was special? Then he noticed something important. After each shot, the shooter paused, carefully aiming. If it weren't for that pause, the shadow warriors wouldn't be dropping one by one. And now, after a few minutes of combat, the shooter was sweating heavily. Each shot seemed to drain him. Running low on aura, Huh? Vega smirked. Let's see if you run out of men. Before I run out of warriors. With a thought, Vega commanded 30 or 40 shadow warriors nearby to join the fight. 2/3 of them broke off and charged toward the sniper's position. Michel, behind cover, ejected the spent magazine from his revolver. He was dripping with sweat and panting hard. Damn lunatic blew up the whole villa. If I hadn't been out of range and using them to protect myself, I'd be dead. I have to find a way out of here, he thought. His aura reserves were low. If this dragged on, he'd be in serious trouble. He hadn't expected the shadow warriors to be so durable. Body armor, helmets. Regular bullets barely did anything. That forced him to switch to a stronger weapon, burning through his aura much faster than planned. Even if he could finish off the dozen or so in front of him, he'd be exhausted. If Vega sent in more, he was toast. Michel had no intention of dying here. No point in holding this position. I'll retreat. Regroup. Then I'll kill Vega and steal that artifact. He believed in his Hatsu, precise hit. Ordinary people didn't stand a chance. He just had to survive long enough to try again. Michel scanned the area, looking for a safe retreat route, some path with enough cover. Just then, a sound. A slab of rubble weighing hundreds of pounds shifted. 2 soot-covered men crawled out from beneath it. Don't shoot. We're not with the Shelbys, we're with the 10 Dons. The shadow warriors didn't hesitate. Bullets ripped through the air. Vega had ordered total annihilation. No one in the villa was to be spared. One bodyguard was immediately shot down. The other dove back into the pit, terrified. Daniel, still in pajamas and clutching his phone, screamed when he saw his guard killed. He fumbled to call his cousin, Murphy, sobbing. As soon as the line connected, "Cousin. Save me. Please, they're going to kill me." Murphy saw Daniel's name flash on the screen. Hearing the desperation in his voice, his brows furrowed. "Is the Shelby family after you? What happened? Isn't Michel with you?" At that moment, another bodyguard yelled from the pit's edge. "We're from the Hegel family. Subordinates of Lord Hegel, one of the 10 Dons. His nephew is here. If you hurt him, the Hegels won't let this go." The only reply was another gunshot. Bullets rained down on the pit's entrance. Daniel now fully understood, these people had no intention of letting anyone leave alive. Trembling, he screamed into the phone, "Save me. I don't want to die." Just as he wailed, a grenade flew into the pit. Boom. Silence. Murphy, still holding the phone, heard the muffled explosion. His face darkened. He slammed the phone to the floor and roared. "Guards!" A figure appeared instantly, kneeling in silence. Murphy's voice was cold and deadly. "I want everything from Nacra City. Find out who dares to kill a member of the Hegel family." Chapter 13. Michel leaned against the wall, pale and blood-soaked. His right arm had been severed at the elbow, his left leg shattered below the knee. The revolver had already slipped from his grasp. He was at the end of the line, nen depleted, strength drained, body ruined. There was no escape now. Before him stood over a dozen shadow warriors, all armed and ready. Michel let out a bitter laugh. "I didn't think Michel, would die here. At the hands of some nobody." He laughed again, his voice cracking into madness. "But just wait," he roared, "I'll be waiting for you in hell. The 10 Dons won't forgive this. You'll all die more horribly than I did." Bang! A gunshot echoed. Michel's skull shattered, and his body slumped to the dirt, stirring up a puff of dust. The shadow warriors didn't hesitate. They had no interest in speeches. They followed orders, and those orders said Michel had to die. With his death, the last living person in the Shelby family villa was gone. Silence fell over the battlefield. At last, Vega emerged from his hiding place. He gazed at the fallen warrior who had taken so long and so much effort to bring down, and couldn't help but sigh. The 10 Dons, huh? They were the titans of the underground world. "I've stirred up a major hornet's nest," Vega muttered to himself. He'd heard Daniel's shouts earlier, but his shadow warriors were too fast. Before Vega could react, they'd already lobbed a grenade into the pit. Daniel was gone. Thinking back on it now, Michel was most likely affiliated with the 10 Dons. From the way he dressed, Vega was sure he wasn't one of the famed shadow beasts under the 10 Dons. That meant Michel was just a regular Nen user under their command. So what about the elite, those shadow beasts with the terrifying reputations? They had to be far stronger than Michel. That thought made Vega uneasy. Michel alone had cost him dozens of shadow warriors. They'd only won by drowning him in numbers. Vega frowned. Sure, in the world of Hunter x Hunter, the 10 Dons were portrayed as paper tigers, ruling the underworld with reputation but getting wiped out by the phantom troop like it was nothing. Their so-called elite guards, the shadow beasts, were humiliated. Uvogin killed them like flies. Even the replacement shadow beasts were torn apart easily. It made them seem weak. But after today's battle with Michel, Vega no longer dared underestimate them. He had just sacrificed an entire squad of shadow warriors to take down one Nen user. That alone demanded respect. I can't keep looking at this world through a god's lens, Vega realized. Every person in this world might need to be reassessed. The Hegel family, just one of the 10 Dons, had a subordinate like Michel, who, even injured, managed to kill dozens of shadow warriors before dying. If that was just a foot soldier. What about the shadow beasts? How many would it take to bring one of them down? 100? 1,000? And right now, Vega could only summon 100 shadow warriors at once. How was he supposed to stand against retaliation from the 10 Dons? Even if it was just from the Hegel family? He shook his head. He remembered how Uvogin had shrugged off waves of gunfire, even rocket launchers. The shadow beasts hadn't flinched when they saw that level of power, they just charged straight in. Vega had to wonder, were the shadow beasts also that tough? Was Uvogin just that much stronger? Maybe the shadow beasts weren't weak, the troop was just that strong. That possibility changed everything. If even regular subordinates like Michel could cause this much damage, Vega would need something more, something stronger, to survive what was coming. Then he noticed something. When Michel died, Vega's experience points had spiked, over 30 points. That shocked him. Until now, each kill had only earned him a single point. He had assumed XP gain was fixed. But Michel had dropped 30? That meant it was tied to strength. So that's how it works. Vega's eyes glinted. A weak Nen user gives over 30 XP. What about a strong one? Hundreds, maybe? If he destroyed the entire Hegel family, how much XP would he gain? Chapter 14. Vega pictured the scene, wiping out the entire Hegel family and earning thousands of experience points. But then he shook his head. He had barely managed to kill one unknown Nen user, and it had cost him dearly. The Hegel family could easily send someone like Michel. They were one of the 10 Dons. They had the shadow beasts. They ruled the criminal underworld. Taking them down wasn't going to be easy. Still, the phantom troop had done it. They'd wiped out the 10 Dons like it was nothing. So why can't I? Vega muttered. He chuckled to himself. Maybe. I just need to get stronger first. He made a plan. Start small. Eliminate the Hegel family. One of the 10 Dons. That would be his first step. But for now, he needed to deal with the fallout. Nacra City had just experienced a massacre. The death toll might have shattered the city's all-time record. There had been turf wars before, sure. But nothing this bloody. Today alone, Vega had killed nearly 1,000 people, wiping out the Shelby family. The scale of the violence would shake the city, and its ruling council, to its core. Which, in a way, worked to his advantage. The bloodshed would serve as a warning. The politicians and criminals running Nacra City would think twice before crossing him. But Vega knew he couldn't rely on fear alone. He'd have to hand over some benefits, bribe the council, offer compensation, if he wanted them to stay quiet. Even though they were bound by a loose rule that underground disputes should stay underground, and not invite official interference. Politicians were snakes. They'd find excuses. They'd poke and prod. And if the 10 Dons came for revenge, those same politicians might align with them to take Vega down. Better to pay them off now. Show strength. Keep the peace, for now. A carrot in one hand, Vega thought, and a big damn stick in the other. That would keep them in line. Still, some would want more. Greedy snakes always did. A cold glint passed through Vega's eyes. If anyone dared to get clever, he'd show them just how heavy his fist could fall. He'd make an example out of them. Permanently. For now, he needed to gather the remnants of the Fanmtl family and take full control of Necro City. This place wasn't small, it had a population in the millions. A solid foundation for what Vega intended to build. To re-establish the order of the Fanmtl family, he'd need power. Real power. Sure, he wiped out the Shelbys today. But he'd done it using the Black Shadow mask, and now, 90% of his Shadow Warriors were in cooldown. He didn't have the firepower to scare people during negotiations. Worse, Vega himself was weak. He had Nen, yes, but his aura pool was shallow. He could be taken out easily by someone stronger. And once he was gone, the Shadow Warriors would disappear too. So Vega came to a decision. He wouldn't upgrade the Black Shadow mask just yet, it summoned enough warriors already. What he really needed was a powerful item. One that would boost his personal strength. He had about 700 experience points on hand now, enough to manifest something formidable. Instead of spending it to evolve the mask, he'd use it on defense. He thought of the Imperial arms from HxH, specifically, Demon's Extracted Armor, the one used by Chrome. Demon's Extracted Armor, also known as Demon's Possession, was a manifestation-type Imperial arm. It granted the user massive defensive strength, could summon a deadly sword, the Red Shrike, and even provided short-term invisibility for stealth and escape. To Vega, it was perfect. Tanky defense. Strong offense. Survivability tools. All in one. He nodded. Yeah. This is what I need. Standing amid the ruins of the Shelby Villa, Vega slowly extended his hands. In his mind, he envisioned the form of the Demon's Possession armor. Aura began to pour from his body, draining rapidly. And then, in his hands, a spectral weapon began to take shape. He could feel the call in his soul. Come forth, Demon's Possession. Chapter 15. In an instant, the aura in Vega's body was nearly completely drained. And in his hand, a palm-sized, worn-looking sword appeared, so flimsy it looked like it was made of plastic. Even though he had mentally prepared himself for a basic form, Vega was still speechless. This is supposed to be Demon's Possession? He muttered. It looked like a toy, a child's plaything. He gave it a casual swing or two. And yep, it felt exactly like waving a cheap plastic sword. No weight. No power. No intimidation. Guess I'll have to use the system to enhance it. Vega shook his head and focused his mind. Immediately, a system prompt appeared. Demon's Possession, manifested item, current state only suitable for use as a child's toy. Vega ignored the mocking description and immediately focused his Nen, mentally invoking, enhance. A ghostly light enveloped the pitiful little sword, pulsing with an eerie energy. Power surged into the blade. Boom. A strange sound echoed. Vega looked around, puzzled. It sounded like a heartbeat? Boom. Boom. The sound grew louder. Then, to his shock, the sword began to pulse, radiating heat in sync with the rhythm, like it had come to life. Vega stared at it, horrified. Could the system have actually resurrected the real Demon's Possession? He remembered its origin. In HxH, the weapon was forged from the flesh of an ancient dragon, a creature so powerful it remained alive even after becoming an Imperial arm. Eventually, it consumed its wielder, Tatsumi. And now, his sword was beating like a living heart. Had the system overdone it? After all, he had imagined that exact version of Demon's Possession while manifesting it. The pulses grew stronger, and suddenly, light burst from the sword. In Vega's eyes, the transformation was astonishing. The plastic toy was gone. Now, it was a silver-white blade, covered in swirling dark markings. A purple gem glowed ominously at the hilt's center. It looked, undeniably, like a magical artifact. Vega was elated. He prepared to enhance it again. But when he checked his system menu, his smile faded. His experience points, once close to 700, were now only 515. What the hell? Vega blinked. He was sure he hadn't miscounted. How did it eat so many points? He had assumed all enhancements followed the same scaling system. The Black Shadow Mask had only cost 10 XP per level. This was way off. He searched the system logs and found the answer. The stronger and more complex the item, the more experience points are required to enhance it. Items with multiple properties, attack, defense, stealth, cost exponentially more than items with a single function. In other words, enhancing Demon's Possession, which granted multiple abilities, cost far more than boosting a simple summon tool. Equivalent exchange, huh? Vega sighed. He had originally planned to enhance Demon's Possession to +10, and then evolve it to its next form. But based on current costs, just reaching +10 would likely burn through 3,000 experience points. And evolving it? Possibly 30,000. He shook his head. This won't be happening anytime soon. Still, he stared at the weapon in his hands with awe. Let's see what all those points did buy me. He activated the armor. Demon's Possession. In an instant, ghostly shadows surrounded Vega, and an armor-clad figure appeared behind him, then fused into his body. Power surged through him. His muscles strengthened. Then flooded his limbs. A protective aura surrounded him like a shield. He turned toward a thick stone pillar nearby and swung a hand casually in a knife hand motion. SHHK, crack. The pillar, nearly a meter wide, was sliced clean in half. Vega blinked in disbelief. He hadn't even used full force. There was no pain in his arm, no recoil. The armor had absorbed everything. Let's test the defense next. He motioned to one of the shadow warriors. Shoot me. The warrior raised a pistol and fired at Vega's forearm. Bang. The bullet bounced harmlessly to the ground. Not even a scratch on the armor. Vega grinned. As expected of an Imperial arm, he murmured. This defense is insane. But then, he frowned. He noticed something strange. His stamina had dropped suddenly. That one bullet, and that one swing earlier, had drained quite a bit of energy. So that's the trade-off. Demon's Possession consumed stamina with every attack and every block. The more he fought, the faster he'd burn out. He estimated quickly, at the current consumption rate, he could probably fight for just over an hour in a standard battle before his body gave out. That wasn't enough for a drawn-out fight. Still, if he enhanced it further, its offensive and defensive stats would skyrocket. And if he could end fights faster, stamina wouldn't be a concern. Decision made, Vega spent more XP and boosted Demon's Possession to +4. Just then, his phone rang. Seeing the number, Vega raised an eyebrow and smirked. They're finally calling. Chapter 16. Yeah, who is it? Vega answered flatly. A cheery voice came from the other side. Congratulations, Vegapengel. I didn't expect you to wipe out the entire Shelby family. Looks like the underground order of Necrocity is about to land in your hands. Vega rolled his eyes. He was immune to flattery. Cut the crap, he said coldly. I know what you're after. If you want benefits, come to Pengel headquarters and talk. Unless you want your name in tomorrow's headlines. Ha ha ha. I get it, I get it. Let's talk business. Vega hung up without ceremony. He dialed another number. When it connected, he asked, Hey, Kuroke. Still alive? Why, young lord. It's me, Kuroke. The voice on the line was cautious, even nervous. Kuroke was a mid-level officer in the Pengel family. Not brave, but loyal. He had once served directly under Vega's late father. Vega knew him well. And he was cautious enough to have survived. Gather whoever's left and go to the Pengel HQ. Clean it up. I'm coming. No pleasantries. Vega wasn't interested in speeches. Obey, or get erased. After what happened today, plenty of people would want to pledge loyalty. If any of the old guard didn't, he'd toss them aside. By tomorrow, once word spread that he single-handedly wiped out the Shelby family, everyone in Necrocity would scramble to align with him. If the surviving Penguin members were smart, they'd follow. If not, too bad. Kuroki hesitated on the line. Young lord. The Shelby family is still chasing us. The HQ might not be safe. He clearly had no idea that Vega had just annihilated the Shelbys. No need to worry, Vega said calmly. The Shelby family won't be coming anymore. It's all over. I don't want to say it a third time. Yes, young lord. I'll head to HQ right away. After hanging up, Kuroki fell into deep thought. Did he really wipe them out? Maybe the old head of the family had left Vega some secret support after all. He began making calls to his intel contacts. Soon, the truth reached his ears, and his jaw dropped. Vega had led a mysterious squad of fighters, obliterating Shelby outposts one after another. Their elite forces were crushed. The Shelbys were finished. The Penguin family's crisis had been resolved. Kuroki didn't hesitate. He called his own men and ordered them to regroup at HQ. This is my chance, he thought. With so many higher-ups dead, now was the perfect moment to pledge loyalty and climb the ranks. He dropped everything and rushed toward Penguin's headquarters. At Penguin HQ, as Kuroki prepared to welcome Vega's arrival, a lackey ran in breathlessly. Boss. We've got incoming, looks like members from the Wild Wolf Society and Hell's Angels. All armed. Kuroki's expression darkened. Damn scavengers, he muttered. These were minor gangs, bottom feeders. He drew his weapon and shouted, everyone, arm up. I want to see what these rats think they're doing. If it had been the Shelbys, he might have hesitated. But small gangs trying to bite off a chunk of Penguin? Dream on. As Kuroki and his men rushed to the gates, tensions flared. Guns were raised. Just then, several black sedans pulled up to the HQ entrance. The tension eased. These cars belonged to a Nacra city councilor. No one dared act rashly now. Bodyguards stepped out first, forming a protective line. Then, an older man emerged, 50-something, wrinkled face, slicked back hair, and a silver cane. He looked across the scene with contempt, especially at the small gang leaders. Hyenas, his eyes seemed to say. He glanced at Kuroki and snapped, what's with the weapons? Want me to make space for a shootout? And no, Counselor Jack. Kuroki bowed quickly and motioned his men to stand down. Jack scoffed. Let them in. Everyone. You'll all be attending a meeting. Your young Lord Vega will be here soon. And he's got things to settle. The gang leaders grinned. To them, Jack's words sounded like permission. If a counselor was backing their actions against Penguin, they might even carve out a slice of territory for themselves. Sure, Vega had struck the Shelbys hard, but both families had lost elites. Maybe it was time for a third power to rise. A triad balance, Shelby, Penguin, and them. Kuroki clenched his fists, but said nothing. He couldn't afford to offend Jack. Once the last gang leader passed through, Counselor Jack turned to Kuroki and said, almost mockingly, don't worry. Vega will handle this. As for those little worms. He smirked and walked inside. Chapter 17. Inside the conference room of the Penguin headquarters building, Luok sat stiffly at the round table, his fists clenched in silent rage. Across from him sat the upper members of minor gangs like the Wild Wolf Society and Hell's Angels, casually divvying up Penguin family territory as if it were free for the taking. Luok seethed. He wanted nothing more than to draw his gun and start shooting. But he held himself back, for now, because Councilman Jack and several other city officials were present in the room. If not for their presence, Luok might have already opened fire. The gang leaders, however, misread his silence. Seeing Luok's restraint, their eyes gleamed with arrogance. To them, it confirmed the rumor, the Penguin family had been devastated. After all, this wasn't the Penguin they remembered. The old Penguin wouldn't tolerate a single word of disrespect, let alone sit silently while their enemies argued over territory like hungry dogs. One by one, the small gang leaders exchanged glances. Then their confidence surged. Today, they'd take a bite out of the Penguin family, and even the city council wouldn't stop them. Bang! A fat, bald man slammed his palm on the table, shouting loudly. What the hell is the Pengel family doing? Is there no one left who's actually in charge? We've been kept waiting, are you looking down on us? He was a leader from the Hells Angels gang, and as he shouted, others chimed in, their voices rising. Seeing that Jack and the other counselors remained silent, the bald man smirked. Clearly, this was his moment. He grabbed a nearby teacup and hurled it to the floor. Crash! Weapons were drawn in a heartbeat, the entire room now a standoff. The bald man sneered and pointed at Keilu Oak. Either your Pengel family hands over the territories of Green, Cameo, Oak, and Cooper districts, or we'll take them by force. Keilu Oak stood, face twisted with fury. Are you delusional? Those 4 districts are the lifeblood of the Pengel family. You think we'll hand them over just because some bottom feeders bark threats? Fat pig, he growled, eyes locked on the bald man, you'll only take those districts over our dead bodies. The bald man laughed and dragged a gold-ringed finger across his throat, miming a kill. Then you'd better start digging graves. Keilu Oak's hand hovered near his gun. A part of him wanted to strike now, kill them all while he had the chance. But logic prevailed. These men were only a fraction of their respective gangs. Killing them would start a war with every small gang in the city. Then, bang! The doors to the conference room burst open. A young man, 15, maybe 16, strode in, wearing a black trench coat and carrying a silver sword at his side. Young lord. Keilu Oak immediately stood and bowed with reverence. The rest of the surviving Pengel members followed suit. Young lord. The greeting echoed throughout the room. Even the city councilors, who had until now remained indifferent, turned their attention to the boy. Curiosity and caution filled their eyes. This was Vega Pengel, the young man who had supposedly destroyed the Shelby family overnight. The bald gang leader narrowed his eyes. Vega had arrived alone, with no mysterious subordinates in sight. He motioned subtly to one of his men. The subordinates slipped out and called their scouts. Moments later, he returned and whispered, Vega had only brought a dozen people. The bald man's heart leapt with joy. So it was true, Vega's forces were depleted. The threat that had terrified them was no longer present. The Pengel family's final strength was gone. He laughed openly now, no longer pretending to be diplomatic. So this is what we were waiting for? A kid? This little punk is your leader? Pengel really is finished. Vega scanned the room. He saw chaos. 200 to 300 people, weapons drawn. Tension hanging thick in the air. In the corner, Councilman Jack and the others sat calmly under the protection of their personal guards, silently watching the chaos unfold. Vega turned to Keilu Oak. Why are there so many people here? He asked flatly. Even strays are running wild in my house? Then, without waiting for a reply, he turned to the alliance of gang leaders. I don't recall inviting you here. And unless I'm mistaken, he continued, voice growing cold, I heard someone talking about wiping out the Pengel family and seizing our territory. Humph. The bald man snorted, pointing a defiant finger at Vega. Listen up, brat. Either you hand over those 4 districts, or you and your family are erased from Necro City. This is a united front. SCHHHK. The man's voice died in his throat, literally. His eyes bulged as blood gushed from a clean slash across his neck. He grasped at his throat, gurgling, as the devil's sword returned to Vega's waist, slick with blood. Without a word, Vega had moved, and ended him. Then, the glow began to spread. The demon's possession had arrived. Chapter 18. The sword flashed once. A head flew high. Blood geysered from the neck, drenching everything around in red. In the next instant, a figure clad in blood-red armor stood amidst the chaos. Mighty. Unstoppable. Vega, wreathed in demon's possession, had finished the job. Every member of the small gang alliance had been cut down. Not a single one survived. Blood pooled across the conference room like ink, transforming the once grand space into a hellish slaughterhouse. Vega stood tall at the center, silent and unshaken. The smell of death hung thick in the air. Everyone else, city councilors, Bodyguards, remaining Pengal men, cowered. No one dared meet Vega's eyes. Those who accidentally did immediately looked away, trembling. Even the counselors, powerful men in their own right, were paralyzed with fear. Vega scanned the room. Satisfied that all threats were neutralized, he let the sword drop. The armor dissolved into mist, vanishing into his body once more. Step. Step. He walked forward, boots splashing through blood, toward Councilman Jack. His eyes were cold as death, and his aura brought with it the weight of final judgment. The bodyguards gripped their weapons tighter, but they knew it was useless. They had seen it all. One man. Over 100 enemies. Gone in seconds. No guns, no backup. Just the terrifying red armor, and a sword that never missed. Vega stopped in front of Jack. "You owe me an explanation," he said calmly. "Don't even try pretending this had nothing to do with you." His gaze sharpened. "K. Luok told me you opened the doors to those rats." His hand moved to the hilt of the devil's sword. "Should I take that to mean you want a piece of Pengal territory too?" Gulp. Jack, now soaked in sweat, felt the breath of death on his neck. One wrong answer. One wrong tone. And he'd lose his head. He had once dreamed of using small gangs to pressure Vega. Thought he could profit. But now, that dream was shattered. I, he stammered. "Vega, you misunderstood. I was trying to prevent a conflict. I stepped in to stop a fight before it escalated. I didn't know those gangsters would form an alliance and try to take your turf. They got what they deserved." Jack bent low, his pride forgotten, groveling like a servant before a king. His bodyguards were stunned. Jack, Councilman Jack, one of the most feared politicians in Necro City, bowing and apologizing to a teenager? Even with Vega's immense strength and the Pengal legacy behind him, this moment felt surreal. Vega sneered. "Oh? Then I suppose I should thank you? And no, of course not." Jack scrambled. "Even without me, Mr. K. Luok could have handled it." Vega locked eyes with him. The pressure was unbearable. Cold sweat dripped down Jack's back. He could practically feel the blade at his throat already. Finally, Vega spoke. "If this ever happens again, Mr. Jack, I suggest you go home early and say goodbye to your family." Yes, Vega. It won't happen again." Jack nodded frantically. "Good." Vega walked to the head of the conference table and took his seat. "Now let's move on to business," he said. "Let's talk about Necro City's new order, and how the Pengal family will be ruling it." The room was silent. Vega's eyes swept the space. The weight of his presence pressed down like a mountain. Jack glanced at the other counselors. They were pale, ghost-white. Any ambitions they once had were gone. They had come here thinking they'd exploit a young successor. Instead, they found a demon in human skin. They were looking at the new ruler of Necro City. And Vega hadn't just taken power. He'd carved it into the city with blood and steel. Jack closed his eyes and repeated a silent truth to himself. There are cities ruled by underground families across the United States of Armenia. What's one more? Let the Pengal family have this one. And so, the future of Necro City was decided, not by vote, nor by negotiation, but by fear. And the cold steel of the demon's possession. Chapter 19. Vega, we'll take our leave for now. We'll do as you command. After bowing respectfully, Councilman Jack quickly led his bodyguards out of the conference hall. Once they were gone, K. Luok stepped forward nervously and asked cautiously, "Young lord?" Vega glanced over. K. Luok immediately stiffened, fear flickering on his face. He looked like he had something to say but couldn't find the words. "You clearly have a lot of questions," Vega said, standing up. "Come with me." Without waiting, he stepped down from the head seat and walked toward the exit, K. Luok hurrying behind him. After all, with so many corpses in the room and a stench of blood in the air, Vega had no intention of lingering. He wasn't some twisted sadist who enjoyed being surrounded by carnage. His earlier slaughter of the small gang alliance had been strategic. It gave him a rare opportunity to earn a large amount of experience points all at once. And, more importantly, he had wanted to test the true power of demon's possession, and use it to intimidate Jack and the other councilmen. If he didn't show overwhelming power, those greedy hyenas would never submit. Sure, they had acted like obedient rubber stamps just now, but if not for the fear he instilled, they'd have immediately aligned with the gangs and caused him endless trouble. Better to break their will from the start. Besides, Jack showing up right when the small gang alliance invaded the Fanmtl HQ? That was no coincidence. Someone had helped orchestrate it. Now, though, things had changed. With his overwhelming strength, the city council had been cowed into submission, and the Fanmtl family had gained a strong foothold. Luok, I know you have questions, Vegas said as they walked. But you can rest assured, Nacro City belongs to the Fanmtl family now. As for the Shelby family, Vega's voice turned cold. There is no Shelby family anymore. Luok's heart trembled. Even though he'd already suspected as much, hearing it directly from Vegas still shocked him. Just days ago, the Fanmtl family had been on the verge of collapse. And now? They had not only destroyed the Shelbys but taken control of the entire city. It was almost unbelievable. Snapping himself out of it, Luok shifted into strategist mode. After a moment's hesitation, he asked, Young Lord. Earlier, you told Jack and the other counselors that no more narcotics would be allowed to circulate in Nacro City. I'm afraid that might be difficult. Vega gave him a flat look. Why do you say that? Luok collected his thoughts. Although our family never dabbled in the drug trade, the narcotics market here has long been run by small gangs. They rely on it to survive, and grow, even in poor districts. You eliminated a good number of them yesterday, and they were already enemies. But the rest of the drug trade was under the Shelby family's control. Now, that might not seem like a problem, since the Shelbys are gone. But... He paused, clearly uneasy. That business traces back to the 10 Dons. Luok swallowed nervously. The Shelbys got their supply directly from them. If we wipe out the entire narcotics network in Nacro, we'll be slamming directly into the 10 Dons. That's not something we can afford. But Vega only shook his head. Luok felt a wave of relief. Surely that meant the young lord understood the risk and would back down. After all, the 10 Dons weren't just some local force, they were the reigning overlords of the global underworld. Even stronger groups had been wiped out for crossing them. But then Vega spoke again. Oh? The 10 Dons? He smirked. Doesn't matter. Wipe out the entire narcotics network in Nacro City. Luok frowns. Vega added casually, I already killed one of their people during the Shelby operation. Apparently one was even the nephew of one of the 10 Dons. Meanwhile, outside the Fanmtl HQ, several city councilors climbed into their cars with stormy expressions, glancing back at the building with dark eyes. They didn't speak a word until Jack, gripping his silver cane, finally said, Let's find somewhere to talk. Everyone nodded. Their convoy drove to a private club on the outskirts of the city, a high-security hideaway used for confidential meetings and deals. Once inside and seated, Jack asked coldly. So what, are we just going to roll over for that kid? A counselor with a large belly sneered, What choice do we have? You saw the bloodbath. That guy's too strong, we can't touch him. Exactly, another said. Even our bodyguards couldn't protect us from someone like him. Humph. Jack tightened his grip on the cane. Then we'll find someone who can. Hunters. Killers. The room tensed. Hunters? Someone muttered. Good luck. Even if we could find one, they don't take jobs unless it benefits them. And as for killers, the fat counselor said, shaking his head, standard hitmen wouldn't stand a chance. And if we go to the Zoldyck family, it'll cost a fortune. A guy like Vega would probably cost more than $1 billion. The room fell silent. None of them wanted to bleed that kind of money. Then Jack leaned forward, voice low. There's another way. One that won't cost us a single cent. The others looked up quickly. What way? Didn't you catch what Vega said earlier? Jack smiled darkly. He wants to wipe out the narcotics trade. Everyone was confused. Jack continued, the drug business in Nacro belongs to the 10 Dons. So if someone were to cut off their profits, Don't you think the 10 dons would deal with Vega for us? Let them take care of him. Laughter filled the room. That idiot's digging his own grave. One counselor cackled. Trying to fight the 10 dons? They control the black market across all 6 continents. No way the Penguin family survives that. Jack lifted his glass. To the 10 dons. Everyone raised their drinks. And toasted to Vega's coming death. Chapter 20. There is no Chapter 20. Chapter 21. The next morning, brilliant sunlight streamed through the window. Vega had just woken up when the door creaked open. 2 maids entered, identical in appearance, long black hair to their waists, soft features, and curvy, youthful figures. They looked about 20 years old and wore black and white maid uniforms with thigh-high stockings that accentuated their pale, flawless skin. Walking lightly across the plush carpet, they bowed gently and said in unison, "Master, we are here to serve you." Without hesitation, they approached to help dress him. Vega paused and raised a hand, halting them. "Who are you? Why are you here?" He wasn't alarmed, just curious who had arranged this. The twins smiled sweetly and replied with respect, "Master, Lord Kaluok assigned us to you. He said someone of your status shouldn't be without attendance. So, for now, he arranged for the 2 of us to handle your daily care." "Kaluok, huh?" Vega nodded. That definitely sounded like the cautious and overly meticulous strategist he knew. He didn't like others making decisions without asking, but since it was Kaluok, he let it go. Still, as the maids reached out to help him change, he waved them off. "I don't like being served like this," Vega said flatly. "Go prepare breakfast instead." He wasn't used to being fussed over, especially by strangers. The maids hesitated, eyes wide and uncertain. "But, Master, we are here to serve you." "I have my own rules," Vega said firmly. "If you're going to follow me, you need to listen. I don't keep disobedient people around." "Yes, Master." The twins bowed respectfully and left to prepare breakfast. Once they were gone, Vega checked the system interface to see how many experience points he had gained overnight. To his surprise, there was nothing new, only the points earned during the conference hall massacre. No gain from Kaluok's operation against the small gang alliance. Strange, Vega thought. Did Kaluok not use the Shadow Warriors? That can't be right. He frowned. There had to be some sort of requirement tied to earning experience points. After all, he had gained points before when Shadow Warriors killed enemies. But the difference this time was that he hadn't been present. Could there be a distance limit? Was the system only granting XP if he was close enough to the action? That would mean he couldn't sit back and let others handle everything. He'd have to be directly involved to keep gaining power. This revelation ruined a part of his original plan, to delegate artifact use to others and send Shadow Warriors to hunt targets while he stayed safely away. But now? He'd have to adapt. After breakfast, Vega was informed that Kaluok had completed the purge of the small gang alliance just this morning. There had been too many factions involved, with scattered personnel, so it took all night. Even though he was exhausted, Kaluok rushed over the moment he heard Vega was asking for him. "Young lord," he said, catching his breath, "the small gang alliance is almost entirely wiped out. Only a few low-level thugs are still at large, but they're being dealt with." Vega nodded. "Forget about the small fry. Just make sure the leaders and core members are gone. We don't have enough manpower to do a full sweep, so pick a few that seem worth keeping. Better to be short-handed than to hire trash. Look for people without serious past offenses." "Understood." Kaluok bowed his head. He then reported their gains. Several casinos, a dozen bars, and a few clubs now belonged to the Penguin family. They had also seized over 1 billion rings in cash. Vega sipped his coffee while Kaluok spoke. When the report finished, Vega tapped the table lightly. "These small things, no need to report them next time. I asked you yesterday to track Jack. Anything useful?" Kaluok hesitated. "Young lord, we followed them to a private club, but the security was tight. My people couldn't get inside. They were inside for over 2 hours and came out laughing, drunk, looking like they were celebrating something. Vega's eyes narrowed. So they're already making moves. They must have received very good news. Young lord. You mean they're planning something against us? Luok asked, surprised. Obviously. I forced them into submission yesterday, made them go from city council bigwigs to obedient subordinates. You think they're happy about that? Vega leaned back. There's only one reason they'd come out so cheerful after just 2 hours. They must have found a powerful ally. And what kind of ally would move against us? Only someone we've already offended. He sipped his coffee. And I did say I was eliminating the narcotics trade in Necro. That business belongs to the 10 Dons. So, who do you think Jack's most likely to contact? The 10 Dons, Luok answered without hesitation. Exactly. Start digging. Find out which Don we've pissed off with the crackdown. Vega turned just as Luok prepared to leave. One more thing. Take a closer look at Jack and the other counselors. While you're at it, find out who in our ranks might be suited to replace them. Yes, young lord. Luok bowed deeply and left. Chapter 22. After giving his orders, Vega stepped outside into the garden. It stretched over several acres, lush grass, carefully trimmed hedges, colorful flowers, and the faint rustle of leaves under the morning breeze. A few male servants tended to the plants, and beyond the hedges, members of the Pengel family patrolled in black suits and earpieces, keeping watch. Vega walked slowly across the grass, the sunlight dancing on his hair, giving him the air of a calm, brooding prince. His mind, however, was focused on Nen and the 10 Dons. Just yesterday, thanks to the system, he had forcefully opened his essence point and awakened his Nen ability. He'd already used it to strengthen 2 artifacts, establishing control over Necro City with decisive violence. But that same action had also drawn the ire of the underground world's true rulers, the 10 Dons. And while the city council pretended to submit, Vega was sure they'd already reached out to the Dons behind his back. From the perspective of outside forces, it looked like the Pengel family was on the brink of being crushed under the Dons' retaliation. But Vega wasn't worried. Thanks to his enhancement system, as long as he kept collecting experience points and upgrading artifacts, he could outmatch any threat. Now his thoughts turned to the shadow beasts. Whether he wanted to replace the 10 Dons or simply neutralize the threat they posed, he'd eventually have to face them. The only Nen user he'd personally fought so far was Michelle, who was, frankly, weak. It had taken a swarm of shadow warriors to bring him down. But Vega didn't dare assume that Michelle represented the strength of the shadow beasts. He had to plan carefully. In his mind, he mentally ranked Nen users based on the scale. S, A, B, C, D, E rank, beginners who awaken Nen by accident, with no real understanding. Like the crippled trio on the 200th floor of Heaven's Arena. D rank, those with a basic grasp of the 4 major principles, 10, Zetsu, Ren, and Hatsu, but shallow in mastery. Example, Nozer family bodyguards like Shashimono Tessino, Base, and Scuvaru. C rank, competent users with developed Nen abilities. Strong enough to overwhelm normal fighters. The shadow beasts and the Dawn's other enforcers likely fall here. B rank, skilled specialists. Everyone in the Phantom Troop fits this tier. A rank, first-rate powerhouses, like Hisoka, Kurlolu Silver, and some of the Zodiacs. S rank, legendary level. People like Isaac Netero, Gene Freaks, and Zig Zoldyck. If his system were to rank the shadow beasts, they'd probably be C rank at minimum. Meaning, ordinary men wouldn't stand a chance against them. Only with Demon's possession could he fight them head-on. But what if the 10 Dons sent multiple shadow beasts? Or worse, if they sent shadow beasts and elite Nen users? Even with his current strength, that could be overwhelming. Vega furrowed his brow. In that case, I need to strengthen Demon's possession again. Once the decision was made, Vega wasted no time. He had himself driven to Necro City's maximum security prison, a facility notorious for housing the most violent, irredeemable criminals. He already had legal authority over these inmates thanks to the power granted during last night's assembly. The Kingdom of Armenia had no death penalty, no matter how severe the crime, only extremely long sentences. But for Vega, these criminals could still serve a purpose. He needed experience points. And these monsters, locked away for crimes beyond redemption, could fuel his growth. For the next 2 days, in the skies above Necro City, a massive airship began its descent. Though large, the craft only carried 3 true passengers. The rest were attendants. Inside, a green-haired man with scales on his face and a repulsive grin lounged between 2 women. "So, Red Snake, who are we off to kill this time?" he asked lazily. A red-haired man, his aura sharp and menacing, tossed him a photo. "This guy." The green-scaled man grinned when he saw the image. It was a portrait of Vegapengel. "Ooh. What a handsome little punk," the man sneered. "I'll make sure to take special care of him." "Don't be careless," Red Snake warned. "He's an end-user. That failure Nichelle probably got taken out by him." The green-scaled man scoffed, running his hands along the women beside him. "Please. The 3 of us together? He won't even make it to his next breath. He's just a kid. How much aura could he even have? Probably doesn't even have full mastery of Hatsu." Red Snake frowned. "Don't underestimate him. Don't forget where we came from. Meteor City has produced monsters before, people far more terrifying than they look." The green-scaled man snorted. "These pampered city kids can't compare to the trash that crawls out of Meteor City." A third man, with sharp teeth and a scar running across his cheek, leaned forward. "Let me see our target." The photo was tossed his way. He studied it briefly, then nodded. "All right. Let's go." The airship landed. Several black vehicles waited below. As the trio disembarked, accompanied by their entourage, the engines roared to life. The convoy headed straight for Necro City, and toward their target. Chapter 23. Top floor of the Pengel headquarters. Vega sat in a leather chair, holding a glass of water as he stared at the cityscape beyond the massive window. Behind him, 5 subordinates stood respectfully in a row, waiting silently. "What's the situation now?" he asked. Luok stepped forward from the group and replied in a low voice, "Our men saw Councilman Jack send a convoy toward the suburbs. According to intel I just received, the convoy was spotted heading toward an airship docking site. Only a few people disembarked from the airship. Since you instructed us to keep our distance, our operatives weren't close enough to hear the conversation. But what we can confirm is that while Jack and the other city councilors didn't personally greet the visitors, they had their men make contact. As for Jack himself, he went out, but only to that high-security private club." Vega turned his chair, glancing over the group with a cold, measuring gaze. Then, in a quiet, contemplative tone, he asked, "So, what should we do? What do we do with Jack and the other councilors?" The largest of the 5, a mountain of a man built like a bear, stepped forward and shouted boldly, "Young lord, we should strike first. If they're only brave enough to scheme in secret, we should act openly, wipe them out." "No," snapped a bald man beside him, shooting him a glare. "That's reckless, Borg. Jack hasn't committed any actual crime yet. If we strike first, it'll be us provoking a full-on war. And the people from that airship? They're probably from the 10 Dons. If we make the first move, we'll completely offend them, and we're not ready for that." Joshi flatly rejected Borg's suggestion. In his mind, a direct conflict with the 10 Dons was suicide. Their influence ran too deep, and the Pengel family couldn't afford that kind of retaliation. He saw this as a simple dispute over drug territory. And if the 10 Dons really pressed the issue, maybe the Pengel family could back off, just relinquish control of the drug market in Necro City and keep the peace. The other 2 offered their opinions as well, generally agreeing that provoking the 10 Dons was not wise. They leaned toward reconciliation. Luok was about to speak up. He knew Vega had already formed a blood feud with the Dons, and there was likely no turning back. But Vega raised a hand, signaling him to remain silent. "I've heard your opinions," Vega said calmly, tapping his fingers on the table. "Now listen to mine. Send word to your subordinates. Tell them to visit the homes of the other counselors, make sure they're not feeling too lonely. As for Jack, Vega's tone darkened, and a smirk played at the edge of his lips. I'll handle him myself. After all, he's with guests from the 10 Dons. Young Lord. Joshi and the others gasped, shocked by the implications. Why pick a fight with the 10 Dons? Couldn't some concessions be made? Only Borg looked excited, glaring smugly at Joshi and the others. Go. Prepare, Vega ordered. The four bowed and left, leaving only Luok behind. Tell me the rest, the part you didn't say earlier, Vega said, turning toward him. Yes, young lord, Luok said seriously. According to an informant we placed inside Jack's household, the visitors weren't sent by the 10 Dons as a whole. It was only one of them, Murphy, the fourth son of the Hagel family. The Shelbys were aligned with Murphy. They've already surrendered fully and become his subordinates. So the people sent to deal with us this time are from Murphy's personal force. Only 3 of them came down from the airship, but they're said to be extremely powerful, likely Nen users. That's not surprising, Vega replied casually. It's not just a special ability. Nen is something taught to professional hunters, and plenty of people can learn it. It's not that hard. Luok's eyes widened slightly. He was surprised at how much the young lord knew. But then again, Vega had demonstrated terrifying powers. Still, something stirred in his chest. If it could be learned, did that mean he had a chance to learn it too? Vega saw the hope in Luok's eyes and smirked. When this is all over, I'll test your potential. If you're qualified, I'll teach you how to use Nen. Thank you, young lord. Thank you. Luok dropped to one knee, right hand over his chest, and swore a solemn oath of loyalty. Vega smiled at the ancient gesture. No need to go that far. Now, continue. Yes, sir. So, our enemy isn't the 10 Dons as a whole, just Murphy of the Hagel family. Vega raised a hand to stop him and walked to the window, gazing at the city below. And how is that any different? Why should I care what the 10 Dons think? His voice was calm, but the ambition behind it was unmistakable. Luok, this city is too small for me. I want more. I want their seats. And as for the Hagel family, I'll make sure none of them remain. Chapter 24. Vega had every right to be confident, because his power had grown tremendously. Over the past few days, he'd accumulated a massive amount of experience points. Between clearing out prisons, eliminating rebels, and crushing opposition in Necro City, the numbers had piled up fast. Finally, he'd upgraded Demon's Possession to +10. At this level, activating the armor caused a tenfold increase in physical strength and a significant boost in Nen output. But most importantly, his defense was nearly unmatched. He had tested it himself. Conventional light firearms couldn't even scratch the armor. True, the suit still consumed some stamina and aura when absorbing damage, but the drain was minimal. He could maintain it comfortably in prolonged combat. The defense wasn't quite on the level of Uvogin from the Phantom Troop, who could tank missile blasts without blinking, but for anything short of a shadow beast, Vega felt completely secure. And he wasn't done yet. He still had enough experience points saved up to evolve Demon's Possession. According to his system's information, advancing the item would result in a massive power spike. If just +10 gave him this much strength, then once it evolved, even if the 10 Dons sent all their shadow beasts, he'd cut them down without a second thought. And so, as his power grew, so did his ambition. Master, Luok reported, glancing at his phone, the convoy from earlier is heading to the club. Jack and the other counselors seem to be meeting with the new arrivals now. Perfect, Vega said with a sneer. Since they're all there, plotting how to handle me, it'd be rude not to join them. Let's go. Time to settle things and remind these rats who rules Necro City. Oh, and have our people raid the counselors' homes. Capture them alive if possible. I'll execute them publicly. I want the whole city to know what happens when you bite the hand that feeds you. Yes, Master. Luok bowed and moved to carry out the order. At the club, the convoy pulled into the private compound. Jack, the pot-bellied counselor, and several others stood outside, waiting with forced smiles. 3 figures stepped out of the lead vehicle: Red Snake, Green Lizard, and Hound. As they exited, Jack stepped forward with an ingratiating smile. "Sirs, you must be the one sent by Mr. Murphy to assist us in handling the Pengull family. We've prepared food and refreshments. Once you're settled, we'll hand over the family's intel." Red Snake's cold eyes flicked toward them. "You're mistaken," he said in a low, raspy voice. "Address him properly. It's Lord Murphy. And we're not here to assist you. Starting now, Nacra City belongs to Lord Murphy." The smiles vanished. That wasn't our agreement," Jack stammered. "We agreed you'd only deal with the Pengull family. That's what we discussed with Mr. Murphy. This wasn't part of the plan." "Ugh." Red Snake's hand shot forward and grabbed Jack by the throat. "This is Lord Murphy's will. You don't get a say. Understood?" Jack gasped for air, face turning red, eyes wide with terror. He nodded rapidly. The moment his grip loosened, Jack collapsed to the ground, coughing. Jack's bodyguards reacted instantly, drawing their weapons, but they didn't even get a chance to fire. Green Lizard and Hound disappeared in a blur of motion. In the next second, every bodyguard was on the ground, groaning in pain, clutching broken limbs. "From now on," Red Snake said coldly, "you follow our orders. You belong to us." He kicked Jack aside and walked past him into the club like a conqueror returning to his domain. The city councilors stood in stunned silence, horror etched across their faces. They never imagined Murphy would go this far. He was seizing total control. But what could they do? The power of the 10 Dons was overwhelming. Resistance was unthinkable. The air was thick with regret. "We're in too deep now," Jack muttered. "Let's just hope Lord Murphy lets us stay on, to manage the city for him." The pot-bellied councilor's face twisted in resentment. "This is all the damn Vega Pengull's fault. None of this would have happened if not for him." A voice rang out behind them, clear, amused, and cold. "Oh? I could have sworn someone just said they wanted me dead." The big-bellied councilor froze. His skin turned pale, and his back went cold. He slowly turned his head, trembling. And then he saw him. Vega Pengull. Standing at the door. Smiling. Chapter 25. "What?" Hearing the pot-bellied councilor's shout, Jack and the others turned toward the entrance in alarm. There stood Vega, expressionless, casually letting a corpse with a snapped neck fall from his grasp. Bang! The dull thud of the body hitting the floor echoed like thunder in their chests. Terror consumed them. Jack and the other councilors were frozen in place, their minds racing with fear. The thought that, had they delayed even a moment longer, they might have ended up with twisted necks just like that body. It made their legs weak and their skin clammy. Vega, listen, we can explain. We didn't betray you. The 10 Dons just sent someone to negotiate, and we were simply here to receive them." Yes. The others chimed in frantically, nodding like chickens pecking grain. The memory of Vega's rampage back at Pengull headquarters, the image of a demon king descending, still haunted them. Now that he was standing less than 10 meters away, their fear only deepened. But Vega didn't even glance their way. He walked forward slowly, step by step, each footfall like a death knell. The atmosphere grew heavy, and the space seemed to fill with an invisible wave of killing intent. Jack, the pot-bellied councilor, and the others wanted to flee, but their legs wouldn't obey. Cold sweat poured from their foreheads. The pot-bellied councilor was so terrified he even lost control of his bladder. A crushing wave of malice smothered them like a weighted blanket. Their instincts screamed at them. "If you move, you die." Vega stopped and scanned the interior of the club. No one came out to help. He looked at Jack and the others with a sneer. "Looks like your new masters don't care much for their dogs. I gave them time to come save you, and yet no one showed up. That means you're worthless." He turned away dismissively and gave a casual wave of his hand. Shing! In a flash, demon's possession beheaded every last one of them. Heads hit the floor. Blood sprayed into the air. Not long after, 3 figures stepped out from within the club. Vega narrowed his eyes. He focused Nen into his vision, activating Gyo, and studied the trio. Immediately, he sensed the vast amount of aura they exuded. Each of them possessed far more Nen than him. But Vega didn't flinch. He had only just begun walking the path of Nen. His strength came not from quantity, but quality. The red-haired man, Red Snake, stepped forward, his face twisted into a cruel smile. He kicked aside one of the counselor's heads and sneered. "Not bad. You saved us the trouble of taking out those pathetic wastes." Then his eyes settled on Vega's sword, Demon's Possession. "So, you're not a clueless amateur after all," he said with growing caution. "This sword. It's your conjured item, isn't it?" He turned to his companions. "Be careful. We don't know what this sword can do, don't touch it directly." "No problem," grinned Hound, the muscular man of the enhancer type. "Conjurers are the easiest to deal with. They pour all their aura into fancy abilities. I just need to coat my whole body in aura and smash him." Without hesitation, Hound gathered his aura and launched forward, slamming a foot into the ground and leaving a crater behind as he shot toward Vega like a missile. He closed the distance in an instant, attacking from Vega's right side, where it would be hardest to counter. He aimed a heavy punch at Vega's face, confident that one hit would end it. After all, enhancers were made for close combat. He used Gyo and seen that Vega's aura was thin, as expected for a conjurer. This would be easy. Demon's Possession. In a flash, red-black armor enveloped Vega. Hound sneered. "More tricks? Let's see if that toy can block this." He channeled all his aura into his fist and slammed it into Vega's face. Boom. The impact echoed through the courtyard. A blast of air exploded outward. But as the dust cleared, Vega hadn't moved. Not even a step back. Hound blinked. The grin slowly slid off his face. The armor hadn't cracked. And his fingers were broken. The moment of realization hit him like a truck. This armor is like iron. He started to back away, but too late. A hand reached out and clamped down on his arm like a vice. "You got a free punch. Now it's my turn." Hound panicked and hastily wrapped his entire body in aura. He knew he couldn't dodge, but maybe he could endure. Vega's right fist surged with power and smashed into Hound's chest. Crack. The sound of bone shattering echoed in every direction. Hound's aura shattered. His chest caved in like a crushed can. The impact severed the arm Vega was gripping and sent the enhancer flying like a bowling ball. He hit the ground hard, unconscious, if not dead. Vega cracked his neck and turned to the other two. "Who's next?" Chapter 26. Seeing Hound crumpled on the ground, Red Snake's face twisted with disbelief and fear. He glanced over at the body. The chest had been completely collapsed. Even if he wasn't dead, Hound was definitely out of the fight. Red Snake instantly abandoned any thoughts of reviving him. He knew the situation had turned critical. He locked eyes on Vega, every nerve in his body taut. That sword, it didn't just conjure weapons. It summoned armor. And not just any armor, armor that could tank a fully charged enhancer punch. This didn't make sense. Vega had barely any aura, at least not enough to maintain such a powerful Nen ability, unless that armor had a terrifying efficiency, or some hidden price. "Lizard, flank left." "I'll take the right," Red Snake murmured. Green Lizard nodded grimly, the scales on his face expanding as his body began to blend into the surroundings. "Vega's aura isn't limitless," Red Snake whispered. "He's probably a conjurer or a manipulator. That armor must burn through aura like crazy. We'll wear him down. And keep an eye out for weaknesses. All abilities have a cost." Lizard nodded again and vanished. Vega, still armored, grinned like a predator. With a stomp, he burst forward like a tank, charging straight at them. Split. Red Snake and Green Lizard immediately dodged in opposite directions, intending to flank Vega from behind. They were betting that his defense in the front was strong, but maybe not in the back. They'd test his mobility too. Could he move well in that bulky armor? Hit him from behind. Red Snake activated his ability. White aura coiled around his arms like snakes. His fingers elongated into whip-like tendrils, stretching meters long. Shing. 10 razor-sharp nails, coated in black nen, stabbed toward Vega's back. Screech. The nails met armor. They scratched, sparked, and bounced off. No damage. Red Snake's eyes went wide. What kind of monster is this armor? How can someone with so little aura summon something this powerful? At that moment, Green Lizard emerged, aiming a condensed nen bullet from his mouth. TCH. Vega let out a short bark of annoyance and casually backhanded the blast away. As Red Snake tried to retract his tendrils and escape, Vega twisted and raised a single arm. Slash. A clean blow severed Red Snake's extended limb. Gah. Red Snake howled in agony, falling back and clutching the stump. But Vega wasn't done. He surged forward at full speed and drove a punch straight into Red Snake's gut. Boom. Red Snake folded like paper, the wind knocked from his lungs as he crumpled to the ground. Now only Green Lizard remained. His face paled. His eyes darted between his unconscious teammates and Vega's armored form. And then, he ran. He turned and fled without hesitation. But Vega was faster. He dashed forward and struck the lizard with a swift, precise hand chop, knocking him out cold. Then he grabbed the unconscious body. Chapter 27. A crisp system notification sounded. My experience points instantly jumped by more than 100. Could it be that he hit hard just now and actually killed someone? After subduing the enemy, Vega glanced at the man clutching his hand. He was still bleeding, but miraculously, still alive. Looking to the side, Vega saw the heaviest of the trio, the one who had just swallowed something, lying dead. Forget it. I wasn't paying close attention at the start. If he dies, he dies. Anyway, the other two are enough for interrogation. After all, Vega was no saint who only hits but never kills. He believes in revenge and repaying favors. The 10 Dons were out to cause trouble, and Vega had always planned to return the favor. Now, with Murphy sending 2 people who knew the 10 Dons' secrets, of course he had to take good care of them. Hopefully, they'd cough up valuable intel. Vega casually threw the lizard he'd been holding to the red-haired Red Snake, causing the two to collapse together in a heap. Then he stepped aside, pulled out his phone, and dialed a number. Soon, Kuroro, who'd been waiting outside, entered to clean up the mess. Vega sat down in the courtyard chair, waiting for Kuroro and the others to arrive. His gaze slowly sharpened as he reflected on the gains from this battle. First of all, he now had a clearer grasp of his evil spirit's true power. Ordinary Nen users likely wouldn't be his match. They probably couldn't even break through the defenses of the possessed body. After all, against those 3 Nen users, the evil spirit body took every hit head-on without any real damage, just a bit of physical and mental exhaustion. The +10 enhancement to the haunting evil body was clearly formidable, nearly overwhelming the trio with brute force. Vega figured it was strong enough to take on the shadow beasts. Of course, he'd wait to confirm that through the prisoners. Surely they knew something about the shadow beast's strength. Secondly, now that he'd wiped out all the opposition in Necro City, he could begin transforming the city as his base of operations. Third, Vega had already started planning to enhance an item that could increase physical strength, for the sake of cultivating powerful subordinates. After all, if he wanted a seat among the 10 Dons, the Fanmtl family would need to expand, seize more territory, and clear away all obstacles. That would require real muscle. Right now, Vega was the only one in the Fanmtl family with Nen. If they encountered another Nen user, he'd have to handle it himself every time. That might yield lots of experience, but it was a hassle. No organization sends its leader into the front lines all the time. He'd considered recruiting external Nen users but dismissed the idea. They were unreliable, average in strength, and difficult to control. His own men, however, were worth training. They would follow orders and stay loyal. After learning the rules of the Hunter HxH world, Vega had formed some insights about Nen. According to that world's logic, Nen is the manipulation of life energy. Only those with strong bodies, or special innate traits, could awaken it. Most people couldn't sense it at all. Even those who passed the Hunter exam were already far stronger than average humans. Each exam attracted millions of applicants, but only a few hundred even got through to the final stage. At times, only one or two passed, or none at all. Those who succeeded were elite enough to learn Nen quickly under guidance. Later, during the Chimera Ant arc, even the ants, with their naturally enhanced physiques, became powerful as soon as they awakened Nen. Even Gon and Killua required harsh training to unlock their abilities, while Chimera Ants skipped this step entirely. Neferptah, one of the king's royal guards, slaughtered the powerful Kite with ease. Their Nen was beyond human comprehension, nearly rivaling Netero's, and that was right after being born. After analyzing all this, Vega formed a bold idea, to create an artifact that could physically enhance the body, as an experiment. If it worked, not only would Vega's power surge, but he could also create powerful, loyal followers. He didn't want to be confined to Necro City forever. Now that he was in the Hunter HxH world, he intended to visit places like Meteor City, the Zoldyck Estate, and the Sky Arena. Most importantly, he was fascinated by the Dark Continent. That mysterious land beyond the known world, the place where all of humanity's territory was just a tiny island in a lake. The Dark Continent was vast and teeming with unknown wonders. How could he pass up a chance to explore it? But venturing there would require serious preparation, supplies, intel, and a gatekeeper. Vega didn't want to go alone. He intended to take a team of loyal, powerful subordinates with him. That meant only the strong could come. Thanks to the system, Vega planned to train such elite companions himself. Once he finished upgrading the haunting evil body, he'd start executing the plan. Just as he was deep in thought, footsteps echoed from outside. Dozens of people rushed in, led by Kuroro. As soon as they entered, they knelt and shouted in unison, "Greetings, young master." Vega waved them off casually and stood up. "Take these two back and interrogate them thoroughly. As Murphy's men, they should have plenty of valuable information. Get it all out of them." "Yes, master," Kuroro replied seriously. "Oh, and I'll come along. They're Nen users, normal people like you might not be able to keep them under control." Chapter 28. Vega sat expressionlessly on a plush sofa, calmly sipping fruit tea and nibbling pastries. From the next room came wave after wave of tortured screams. Before long, Kuroro emerged, holding 2 sheets of paper, his face tense with fear and anxiety. He kept glancing at the papers as though the contents were deeply troubling. "What's wrong? You look worried," Vega asked, setting down his teacup. He assumed the intel from the interrogation had finally been extracted, especially now that the screaming had stopped. Judging by Kuroro's face, the intel wasn't good. Looks like whatever they learned about the 10 Dons was serious enough to shake him. Vega silently speculated. "Master, the intel we got. It's not good," Kuroro said solemnly. "These documents contain what we pried out of those two. To prevent collusion, I had them interrogated separately. The information is nearly identical, minor discrepancies, but mostly consistent. But the details far exceeded our expectations. The 10 Dons' power is truly terrifying." Kuroro looked visibly troubled and said in a low voice, "Master, if the 10 Dons really decide to target us, the Pangelit family wouldn't stand a chance. We need to start planning immediately." He handed the documents to Vega. "I see." Vega raised an eyebrow as he scanned the pages. The 10 Dons really are powerful. No wonder they rule the underworld. And this is just the strength of the Hegel family, only one of the 10 Dons. No wonder they dominate the criminal world. What Vega hadn't expected was just how massive the Hegel family's influence was. It raised a critical question: how had the Phantom Troop wiped out all 10 Dons in the manga's York New arc? Clearly, the situation in Ukexan City wasn't as simple as it seemed. Vega's gaze grew thoughtful. "Well, I guess my days won't be boring anymore," he mused. "The stronger the enemy, the more experience I can harvest." "Master." Kuroro's expression was grim. "The Hegel family alone commands tens of thousands of private soldiers, plus tanks and airships. They control a massive territory with tens of millions of residents. It's basically a small country. Even though our Pangelit family isn't directly neighboring them, if the 10 Dons send just a portion of their forces, we couldn't stop them." Kuroro, as the Fanmtl family's head steward, knew that the battle-ready members of their organization only numbered around 1,000. Many were new recruits with no loyalty, they couldn't be trusted. If we went to war with the 10 Dons, I don't know how many would desert out of fear, or worse, betray us. Even Kuroro felt a sense of impending doom just from reading the documents. The pressure was suffocating. Don't be so pessimistic, Vega said, smiling. Yes, the Hegel family has numbers, power, and territory, but they've also got enemies. They can't throw everything they have at us. Relax. I'll take care of the 10 Dons myself. Just then, Vega's eyes narrowed as he caught something interesting in the report. He looked up at Kuroro and asked seriously, "Is it true? The 4th son of the Hegel family, Murphy, the guy who caused us all this trouble, is in the Sky Arena?" Kuroro nodded. "Yes, master. We interrogated the prisoners separately, asked staggered questions, and used heavy doses of truth serum. There's no doubt, Murphy is in the Sky Arena. According to them, he went there to recruit powerful fighters for the inheritance battle, which is why he left his home base. I've analyzed it. The motive checks out." "Is that so?" Vega put down the report, his eyes lighting up with calculation. If Murphy was in the Sky Arena, then this was the perfect opportunity. He'd already offended Vega twice. Now was the time to act. And since the defeat of Red Snake, Blue Lizard, and Hound hadn't yet been exposed, Vega could exploit the time gap. If he moved quickly, he might just trap Murphy before any news reached him. With that, Vega tossed the papers aside and barked to Kuroro, "Ready the airship. We're heading for the Sky Arena, now. Also, lock down all information about today's battle. I'm going to give Murphy a proper send-off, let him explore the road to hell ahead of the 10 Dons." Chapter 29. When Kuroro heard this, his face immediately turned pale, and he hurriedly spoke. "Master, are you really planning to kill the 4th son of one of the 10 Dons? If you do kill Murphy, it will be seen as an act of vengeance. Killing a son. It would mean a blood feud with the entire 10 Dons. We don't have to go that far." Kuroro pleaded anxiously. The so-called nephew of the 10 Dons that you killed earlier was only distantly related to Murphy. He probably never even met the 10 Dons face to face. From the beginning, it was just Murphy we offended. If we're willing to pay a certain price, there's still a chance to reconcile. Please, let me go to the Sky Arena to negotiate. Maybe we can resolve this peacefully. In Kuroro's mind, although Murphy had sent his men to attack the Fanmtl family, they had failed. The 3 agents had fallen in Necro City, and Murphy had taken a major loss. This alone proved that the Fanmtl family was no pushover. Showing some strength might be enough. And since Murphy was focused on fighting for his family's inheritance, he might be willing to reconcile in order to gain support from the Fanmtl side. After all, Red Snake, Hound, and Green Lizard had died by Vega's hand, but they were just underlings. It wasn't a huge loss. At most, the Fanmtl family could pay some compensation. But Vega didn't listen. He casually waved his hand, signaling Kuroro to be quiet. His face turned serious. "Say no more." Vega stared directly at Kuroro. "This isn't about whether Murphy wants reconciliation, it's about whether I want to let him live. More importantly, they stood in my way." Vega's voice turned domineering. "I want a seat among the 10 Dons. That means one of them has to die. Murphy has clashed with me not once, but 3 times. Destroying the Hegel family along with him will only clear space for me to sit." "But..." Kuroro's voice trailed off, hesitating. The Hegel family's private army of tens of thousands loomed in his mind. The gap between their forces was simply too large. To Kuroro, the comparison was like a toddler trying to challenge a grown man. Even if Vega had powerful Nen abilities, the 10 Dons surely had stronger Nen users under their command. "You don't have to worry about that. I'll handle it." Vega's gaze was unwavering. Seeing that Vega was fully committed to clashing with the 10 Dons, Kuroro could only sigh deeply. His heart filled with dread, for his own life and the Fanmtl family's future. "Yes, master. I'll prepare the airship to the Sky Arena," Kuroro said, physically and mentally exhausted. Since he couldn't change Vega's mind, all he could do was start making arrangements. Vega silently watched Kuroro leave. To ordinary people, the 10 Dons were terrifying. But their real weakness was their lack of strong Nen users. Sure, they had the shadow beasts, but even those weren't top-tier Nen masters. Now, with his haunting evil body enhanced to +10, Vega was probably strong enough to take on a shadow beast already. And once he killed Red Snake and Green Lizard, he'd likely have enough experience points to upgrade the haunting evil body even further. Once it leveled up, his power would skyrocket. Even if the 10 Dons sent their strongest, Vega could crush them. In a war with the 10 Dons, Vega would be unstoppable. As long as he wasn't killed instantly, he'd only grow stronger over time. In desperate moments, he'd level up and gain power instantly. So what was there to fear? With a cold glint in his eye, Vega looked toward the interrogation room. He went in and killed Red Snake and Green Lizard, who were still barely alive, gathering enough experience points to push the haunting evil body to its next tier. The system's experience counter jumped by over 400 points. Now nearing 4,000 total, Vega smiled with satisfaction. He warned the others not to disturb him, then began upgrading the haunting evil body. In an instant, black auras surged around the sword, symbols and runes glowing as they wrapped around its surface. Boom. Bang. Bang. A heartbeat-like sound echoed from within the blade. Suddenly, a massive dragon-shaped phantom emerged, soaring through the interrogation room and roaring to the sky. Its colossal body loomed over the Pangelet Villa, exuding an overwhelming aura. Servants and stationed guards all trembled under the pressure. Just as they were about to collapse, the dragon disappeared. It was as if the whole thing had been an illusion, yet their disheveled state proved it had been very real. When they finally snapped out of it, the guards grabbed their weapons and rushed toward the interrogation room. But just as they arrived, a voice of authority called out, "Don't panic. I'm fine." Then Vega stepped out, his aura majestic, his expression calm, holding a newly transformed black longsword. Chapter 30. Seeing Vega emerge from the interrogation room, the subordinates gathered at the door all stood at attention and saluted. "I'm fine. Return to your posts," Vega said calmly. Most of the villa's staff had arrived to investigate the commotion. Though full of curiosity about what had caused the disturbance, they obeyed and returned to their duties, guarding the villa's perimeter. Vega, now holding his fully upgraded haunting evil body, returned to the villa. As he sat down on the sofa, the twin maids approached with tea and snacks. They were clearly both curious and worried about what had just happened, but as servants, they said nothing, just stood quietly by, ready to serve. "You may go," Vega said, waving them off. Now it was time to examine the upgraded haunting evil body. The earlier outburst had shaken the entire villa, and Vega had stepped out immediately to calm everyone. Only now did he have a moment to inspect the sword in detail. What was once a silver blade had turned pitch black, covered in countless glowing runes. At its hilt, the purple gem had developed a reddish crack, resembling a closed eyelid. At the same time, the system displayed updated information. Haunting evil body, first tier. Now a transcendent weapon. The blade is forged from the corpse of the Tyran dragon. Upon activation, the Tyrannosaurus spirit is summoned to possess the wielder. Ability, increases the user's stats more than tenfold. Grants ironclad defense. Comes with a secondary weapon, red-backed shrike. More than tenfold. Vega murmured, intrigued. Did it enhance all abilities by that amount? He didn't wait long to find out. His thoughts stirred, and he called out. Haunting evil, activate. A massive dragon-shaped phantom burst out behind him. Its power surged outward, then dived forward and fused with Vega's body. In an instant, he felt an overwhelming transformation. His physical abilities skyrocketed. What surprised him even more was the explosion of Nen aura within him. His Nen surged tenfold in mere seconds. His eyes lit up with astonishment. All abilities, strength, Nen, defense, increased more than tenfold? So this was the power of the upgraded haunting evil body. And as for that iron wall defense, it had to be beyond formidable. No wonder the upgrade cost so many experience points. This kind of enhancement practically broke the game balance. Just imagine, if Chairman Netero had wielded this thing during his battle with Meruem. Forget the 100-type Guanyin Bodhisattva. It would have been the 1,000-hand Raging Ruin. He could almost see it. Meruem, your power is too great. So you must be eliminated. And Netero would sit before a void Buddha statue, unleash 1,000 hands, and slam the Ant King into the ground like a rag doll. Vega chuckled at the thought. Unfortunately, his own base Nen was still low. Even with a tenfold boost, he'd only reached the level of an average Nen user. Just as he was growing accustomed to the haunting evil body's new power, the sound of screeching brakes rang out outside. Hurried footsteps approached the villa. "Master, are you alright?" Kuroro burst through the doors, panting and sweating. He saw Vega resting calmly and finally let out a sigh of relief. He'd just finished arranging the airship when he got a report about a strange disturbance at the villa. Terrified that something had happened to Vega, he rushed back. Seeing Vega safe and sound was a huge relief. Right now, the entire Fanmtl family depended entirely on him. Vega looked at the exhausted Kuroro and felt a surge of appreciation. Since the family bore the name Fanmtl, why not make it a real Fanmtl family? His gaze sharpened as he looked Kuroro in the eye. "Kuroro, you've been loyal. I've seen it," he said. "You deserve a reward." Kuroro bowed respectfully. "This is my duty. The Fanmtl family's growth is thanks to your leadership." "No," Vega said with a smile. "You've earned something special. I'm giving you a gift unique to the true Fanmtl family, a great power." Kuroro's eyes widened in disbelief. "Master, do you mean you're going to teach me Nen?" Vega shook his head and chuckled. "Not Nen. This is something else, another kind of power. This is your reward. Kneel." Without hesitation, Kuroro dropped to one knee, placed his right fist over his heart, and bowed his head. Vega extended a hand, channeling his Nen. A vision formed in his mind, a glowing glove marked with the Roman numeral I. As his aura surged, a tattered pair of child-sized gloves appeared. The moment Vega activated his enhancement system, the gloves lit up with blinding flames. The old, worn gloves transformed into flaming gauntlets emblazoned with the numeral I. Kuroro Pengal. These fiery gloves are now your weapon. With them, you'll burn through anyone who dares stand in the way of the Fanmtl family.